Anyway, let's blast off, ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, and MBs. I think I forgot to do it so far, so I'm gonna do it right now, partner. I'm gonna do it right now, partner. We'll talk about Texas's insanity. Conservatives jump off the Trump train as GDP shrinks. Since you're blasting off, Chad is trying to tell you about Ethan talking to Sam. Is he talking to Sam right now? Because I will be watching that for sure. Is he already talking to him? 4 p.m. EDT. We do not care. No, I definitely care. Are you kidding me? I definitely want to watch that. Are you out of your dang mind? Also, I'm going to be debating Ethan on Friday, so I want to see what they talk about. Bomb blast off meme candidate maybe. Oh yeah, I like this. Hold on. 1 p.m. your time. Yeah. We'll watch it. We'll watch it at 1 p.m. my time. Will you stream your side? Chatters, can I ask you a real question? Do you think that I wouldn't fucking live stream my debate with Ethan? Like, are you seriously asking me? Are you seriously asking me if I'm gonna not go live every day as I always do for this one specific moment? Why would I let him control? Why would I let him control the button or the conversation in its entirety? Like, the whole purpose of why I wanted to have a conversation with the entire purpose as to why I wanted to have a conversation with Ethan was so that, like, he can't manipulate the footage. Like, I don't want him to engage with me in a disingenuous fashion. I want it to be like all cards are on the table. People are amped because Sam saying won't stream. Yeah, I don't think Sam is streaming his side, but it's okay. Anyway, conservative jump off the Trump train as GDP shrinks. Sam Seder X H3 later. Finn Peanut raid. Thank you, Finn Peanut raid. Thank you, Finn Peanut, for the raid. Hope you had a good stream. Are you going to watch the Hassan stream today? Yeah. Don't pause too much because Sam is going to say the same stuff you say. I know. Sam and I are like this when it comes to Israel, ironically enough. Like, the only difference is probably our style. He has a much more reserved, much more restrained approach. But, like, yeah, he gets it. He understands the exact same things that I also understand in terms of Zionism being a failure of a project, you know? Watching Uncle Sam Cedar educate. Yeah, he's more handsome too. I agree. He is more handsome. Conservative jump off the Trump train as GDP shrinks. Mosen freed by judge. What else? There's a bunch of stuff that I wanted to, of course, bring up. Massive attack defense kneecap. We'll talk about that as well. Oh, Texas anti-Israel pledge. Anti-Israel sentiment. Comparing Viet Cong to Palestinian resistance movements on the 50th anniversary of Vietnamese liberation. Those are pretty glasses. Thank you. Oh ho, Ho Chi Minh. The Nanigaski song is stuck in my head. Hi, Nanigas. No, I don't know what the fucking lyrics are. I keep forgetting, but it's fine. Did you see the Osen account in Netherlands got that 3 Yemeni families killed by a smear? Yes, I did see that. I saw the Alden Markey post. I need to learn the lyrics so I can sing that casually, randomly, all the time. Which Sam is talking to Ethan today? Sam Cedar, Uncle Sam, my uncle, real Uncle Sam Cedar is talking to Ethan Klein later today. And obviously, after that conversation takes place, he's going to have a debate with me on Friday. Wait, he didn't cancel? I know I'm being parasocial here, but there's no chance E will just swap out D in an effort to get you banned on a technicality. Yeah, he might do that, but I think that would destroy his reputation with the remaining, like, progressive base, unless, I mean, it's a calculation, right? He might be perfectly fine working with, like, a sex pest who is pro-genocide, hoping that, like, his remaining fans who find themselves to be progressive, but, like, in this very unique carve-out space that they've found where, like, they agree with Ethan only in terms of, like, how they must talk about Palestinian liberation, like, those people I think would probably look at that and be like, that's gross. So, like, everything Hassan said about everything Hassan said about you collaborating with Destiny was correct. Like, what the fuck is that? You know? Because Destiny isn't just like repulsive because of. But if you back out, aren't you worried that he will just call you a coward? I know it's a shitty thing for him to do, but just still thinking about your stream. Yeah, I mean, if he puts up Destiny or any other like banned person, I will get banned on Twitch. So yeah, I'm not gonna fucking get banned on Twitch just because Ethan wanted to do a troll, and I will, I will bring that up and I will communicate that while I'm on his stream as well. But it is what it is. It's not like I'm I'll still have a couple words before I pull out of the. I'm more worried about my stubborn nature where I will just like keep going and then I'll fucking get banned. I thought Twitch changed that policy. No, it's not. It's different. This is like Twitch changed the policy where you can watch a content creator that's been banned, but you can't literally fucking talk to a content creator directly and have him on your show while they are banned. Like communicating directly communicating with a permanently banned streamer is a big no-no still on the platform. It's just like straightforward ban evasion. So, it is what it is. But I wouldn't, I expect some shit like that. I expect some, I don't know. I expect him to basically try to do something like that to aesthetically make it feel like he made me run away in a similar like, oh no, Sam Seder, what a fucking nightmare style situation. So like, I think that he might try to go for like an aesthetic victory because he knows we can't have like a normal conversation without him looking like a fool. It will be bad faith. I expect it to be bad faith. And I expect him to, to not entertain the conversation. I'd be genuinely surprised. I would be genuinely surprised if it was just like a straightforward conversation where he addresses his grievances and then he recognizes that he's in the wrong if I show him my side of things. You know what I mean? What if he just has DMs with D and Saltman on the side that just feed him messages and clips? It's fine. I don't care about that. I don't know. I'm so stubborn that I might literally just tank the ban if such a thing were to happen. And I don't know. What time are you talking to E? Friday. You're going to go debate this dork trying to enlighten an audience that already hates your guts and has been open about it for the past 20 months at this point. He's going to talk about swastika swords and bad empanada and random Twitter idiots, and you're going to end up looking like a remarkably clueless person for entertaining this in any capacity. No, I'm going to try to keep the conversation focused on Israel-Palestine and what his opinions on Israel-Palestine are and how significant of a difference in opinion I have on Israel-Palestine. And I'm going to ask him about, some of his positions on the matter, if they've changed or not. And if he tries to fucking constantly talk about how he is the victim of CPS calls or all this shit, like I've never entertained any of that. I think it's well established what my position is on that as someone who is the recipient of endless amounts of fucking interference in my life from stalker communities and snark subreddits and all the like. I would never want that to happen to another content creator. So of course I don't think I'm responsible for any of that shit. So, if he tries to talk about like his own personal victimhood in this process, like, I'm aware of all the things that you guys are aware of. Do you think I'm like that oblivious? I'm not that oblivious, right? Yeah, I stay in my own lane and I usually talk about politics for the most part, but like, I'm not that fucking oblivious. And yes, my expectation is that this will most likely be bad faith. I don't think that it's going to be good faith. Like, I don't think he had a genuine change of heart. That would be truly shocking if he had a genuine change of heart where he's like, you know what? I want to put this to rest. I want to put this to bed. No, I think he has like a ace up his sleeve, but it's fine. It's not something that I'm worried about, Why do you think you want salmon before you? My expectation is that I don't want to talk about it too much. Let's just watch what happens today. I don't know. I don't know what his expectations from a conversation with Sam will look like, but if I were to speculate, I assume that he is going to present himself as simply a person who has actively been pro-Palestinian, who has been wronged by vicious anti-Semitic smears online, knowing full well that like Sam doesn't know Ethan's full background or the things that he has said and the ways that he's presented himself or any number of different actions that he's taken in terms of trying to deplatform pro-Palestinian content creators over and over again. Like, he doesn't know any of that shit. He just cares about Israel-Palestine. So Sam is going to enter the conversation talking about Israel-Palestine. Ethan will simply say, I'm a two-stater, Hassan is a one-stater, and he wants all Jews to be assassinated and murdered. And basically I found out that he was like a rabid anti-Semite that does propaganda, and you know, he brainwashed me, and he brainwashed my audience into being viciously anti-Semitic. They said horrible things about my wife. They said horrible things about me. They said horrible things about my children. He'll just like make it seem as though I'm responsible for everyone online, including members of his own community that have had a difference in opinion due to the way he has communicated on this issue. So I suspect that he will try to present himself as the real victim here, you know, as a serious victim, as a 40-year-old man living in Bel Air, multimillionaire. He's the biggest victim of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So he will probably try to present himself at the end of the day as a person that agrees with Sam, and he'll be like, see, Sam Seder agrees with me. See, guys, I'm pro-Palestinian. Hassan was wrong. You know, bonus points if he can get something out of that conversation where it even looks like Sam Seder turned around and said something like, yeah, I don't agree with what Hassan is saying on that. You know what I mean? And then he'll take that information and move it on to Friday with a conversation with me where he'll be like, see, Sam Seder disagrees with you. But yeah, we'll see. I think that is the basics of the plan. I just don't know what's going to happen when it doesn't go the way he thinks it's going to go. I got to be honest with you. You have a very low estimate. What? You have a very low estimate of Sam? Wait, what? No, I know Sam very well. What the fuck are you talking about? I know his positions very well. No, Sam is most likely going to stay on the issues. Whenever Ethan brings up like random drama related shit, he'll probably be like, I don't care about any of this. I don't know about any of this. Why are you bringing this up to me? And we'll try to redirect the conversation back to the issue on hand. No bit. I mean, he's not that naive. No, I know he's not. What are you talking about? Sam Seder is brilliant. Yeah, he will absolutely try and accept the critiques of Israel so we can reframe the conversation like we agree on this. Why even discuss it? Minimizing and avoiding the details of the slaughter and starvation campaign by saying that's bad. I don't agree with it. But he will desperately try to get you to engage on other topics at all costs. You're correct. Yeah, I think he's gonna have like all the clips out of context to be like, see, this is your boy. He loves Hassan Nasrallah. He said Hassan Nasrallah is the smartest man to ever exist and is the most infallible figure to ever exist. He'll have like a sequence of 10-second clips to be like, he interviewed a terrorist. What's up with that? All this shit. And then he'll be like, and in the process of this, his vicious, rabid, anti-Semitic community sent CPS after me, which is like one of the most insane points of slander, I think, which is because like I didn't even know any of that shit was happening. I don't care about like the reasons as to why or how that took place. I would never in a million years ever entertain that notion. I wouldn't do that to anybody. And I think that's really strange that he tried to put that on me. And then he'll be like, oh, he has a swastika sword, you know? So the issue E has moved far for the past. Let's be real, though. The issue for E has moved far past the issue of Israel-Palestine. This has become entirely about drama and smears. Oh, yeah, no. I think it's incredibly selfish. I think it's incredibly and unimaginably selfish to take so much horrifying death and destruction that is happening right now every single day, where Israel's blowing up markets in Gaza, killing 60 people, which used to be newsworthy. It's become such a normal part of the process, it doesn't even make it into the fucking news. Israel's also implemented a starvation campaign right now as we are speaking, where the markets in Gaza are empty. There's no more food. People are starving. And he wants to talk about how he's a real victim here because he keeps saying shit that's like in defense of this practice, while simultaneously lightly criticizing it every now and then, or having a tremendous amount of focus on all of those people, myself included, that highlight all of the depravity of the Israeli government engaging in this act of ethnic cleansing as anti-Semitic smear campaigners against the beautiful state of Israel. So that in and of itself is completely unacceptable. That right there is like directly puts you at odds with even a liberal Zionist that knows better and doesn't fucking talk about this stuff anymore because he realizes he's going to look bloodthirsty. So yeah, interested to see if Sam and Ethan discussed, do you have an issue with From the River to the Sea? That was the main breaking point of y'all's post leftover combo. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like this, where is it? There's this video. Ethan Klein explodes in a sputtering rage at the mere suggestion that he is not the world's ultimate victim. The entire room scrambles to reassure and soothe him like a spoiled toddler.
The shit he said and posted about Frogan over the past years is like insanely nasty shit.
Yeah.
Worse than anyone I've seen. If this is true, absolutely mind-blowing, insane shit.
Hold on. It's not worse than anything you've seen.
He was unbanned after 48 hours.
How could it be worse
apparently.
than anything you've seen?
Worse than... Okay, literally no. I guess
he was
not.
very nasty. Well, I'm just saying, people like fucking want to like lay down and fucking like...
I'm talking about specifically against Frogan.
But like he called her fat, right, and ugly, which is horrifically mean. I get called a fucking baby killer.
I was talking specifically about
that's way
Frogan.
worse.
How could you say that? How could you say that what Frogan experienced is way worse than what I experience on a daily basis? Make sure this guy's aware he's coming on your show, not the other way around. You're the one with the motion, no charitability, no gloves. Let him have it. Hold him to account. I mean, I don't really care about the petty shit. I just want to have this conversation. And more importantly, I want his audience to actually hear the truth. That is what I care about. Ironically enough, he believes that that's what he wants to do as well, to have my audience hear the truth about the dangerous nature, not realizing that my audience probably thinks I'm fucking not radical enough, you know? half of this community thinks I'm a pussy for not running around constantly and just like, I don't know, flying the banners, okay? So I don't know why he thinks that, I don't know why he legitimately and unironically thinks that like people are gonna fucking be like, wow, I can't believe Hasan offered analysis and context to why resistance militancy exists against an apartheid regime that is doing fucking genocide and blowing the shit out of every neighboring country. I can't believe he said that. Oh no, the horror. Like, does he not realize that these are my points that I've said on my stream with additional fucking statements on top of that? I don't know why he thinks that my audience is going to be like, wow, this is a bridge too far. What's next? Are you going to say that you have Marxist-Leninist tendencies? How dare you?
Worse than being called fat and ugly, in my opinion.
Sure.
Not yelling at you. I am yelling at you.
I don't really understand what the
not,
point is that you're trying to make.
Because I get frustrated when everybody's like trying to defend her so much. It's like she's the ultimate victim of online harassment.
She is. She is she has been victimized in infinitely worse ways than Ethan could ever imagine. Ethan is so not victimized that he has to fucking invent ways of being victimized to create drama surrounding it. And the reality is, when Ethan creates drama around his own personal victimization, people actually tune in. That actually works for him. Frogan, on the other hand, is constantly and consistently fucking smeared by the most bad faith, most rabid, sociopathic figures online. Okay? God, it is so funny. It is so funny how, like, Israel coded this is, you know? Constantly on the defense, constantly self-victimizing, constantly escalating, and being an infinitely more powerful figure in the conflict. Like, obviously, there is a very different... There's obviously no moral equivalence between what Israel's doing, which is fucking genocide, right? But like in terms of the propaganda aspect of it all, it just like it literally is the same shit that Israel does. So frustrating.
It's not.
It's like people are nasty to her.
I'm pointing out how weird it is for IDubs to reach out to him specifically. That's why I'm saying that.
Right.
I'm not comparing. It's in a vacuum.
IDubs to reach out to who? Tectone? I don't think IDubs reached out to Tectone. What the fuck? You should look into watching the Gaza Ghetto Uprising on stream. It was even made by a former Israeli. Yeah. Oh, God. Bro, wasn't it you who said platforming bigots is bad, yet you're letting Ethan farm you for views? Wait, I thought Hasan was upset. Isn't that what Ethan said last week? Bro, wasn't it you who said platforming bigots is bad? Yes, brother. There's a difference between platforming bigots and then also fucking like having a conversation for clarity, having a conversation that creates clarity in the minds of people in his audience that are absolutely amenable to my position if they were to hear what I actually have to say. I would be truly shocked if his entire community is completely swapped into like a drama slop tube alt-right adjacent commentary. I think there's a lot of girly pops that still watch Ethan and still see Ethan and Hila as their comfort characters, not realizing that like they have also fallen down this like weird pathway of radicalization in the opposite direction. And I think those people can actually be convinced. Those people can actually change their minds if they see the fucking full picture. Anyway, I know what I'm doing. Please trust me. That's it. Nah, the girly pops are doing insane Islamophobia now. I know, but you know, I know what I'm doing. Let me fucking do my thing, okay? How many years has it been at this point? Like, y'all have to trust me a little bit on this, right? You have to trust me a little bit, okay? You did the same thing with the Andrew Tate. You were like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. It's going to be bad. And it was like, never mind. It was actually pretty good. I'm glad that it happened. And it's the same when I tell you, like, it's good if the Democratic Party actually turns around and starts criticizing this administration for its ridiculous deportation policies, because that will get the media to pay attention to it. And then inevitably, once a big fuss is created around it, like, people's positions will change. They are not firmly planted on the Trump fascist, white nativist, anti-immigrant agenda. They will recognize the cruelty of it, and they will turn around and say, all right, we don't want this anymore. And the polling will reflect that reality. And guess what? That is actually what happened at the end. That is literally what happened at the end of the day. We're experiencing it right now. Trump is underwater on every single issue, with the exception of the one issue where there's no counter narrative and no counter messaging happening, which is the trans stuff. And even then, he's only 51%. He's only a net 1 point positive rating on his only issue. Just trust me when I say, I know what I'm doing, okay? I got a method to all of this madness. Let me cook. I am nervous, Hassan, truthfully. Do you get nervous before debate? No, I don't. Why would I? This is not a thing to get nervous around. This is like me just being honest and truthful and speaking about my experiences. Anyway, what was Bradley's time frame on Trump making everything amazing again? Oh, dude, I got to check in with Bradley Martin as well. To see like where he's at with respect to like how devastating the Trump admin has been so far, because like he's cooking him up. He's whipping it around. Anyway, look, Mosen is finally free. Detained Palestinian American student speaks after his court hearing. We'll show you the images right here. Mosen Madawi, Palestinian American student on a green card, it has been officially freed. For those of you who don't know, Mosen was one of the student activist leaders. He is very outspoken. He's a humanist. He's a humanitarian. That was his main focus on this issue. He has tried to make inroads with even Zionists on campus and Israelis on campus. And Israeli advocacy groups on campus in an effort to try and find a reasonable middle ground. He is perhaps one of the best examples of a perfect victim, like straightforwardly a perfect victim. And he was in perhaps one of the most depraved immigrant enforcement actions, in spite of shitty, squishy liberals will also appreciate and understand. He was still unjustly apprehended, and his apprehension was absolutely insane. The way that they apprehended him was he knew that the government was most likely going to come after him, so he was in hiding in Vermont, okay? And knowing full well that he was in hiding in Vermont, the government actually called him in to an immigration office. They called him into an immigration office to tell him that they called him into an immigration office to tell him that this was the day of his citizenship test. Like he was about to be naturalized as a U.S. citizen. Right before he went to this immigration facility, this immigration administrative facility, he gave an interview to Akilah Lacey where he basically said, either I am going to tomorrow become an American citizen, finally go through the naturalization process, become an American citizen, as they say they want to do, or I'm going to be detained by ICE. And the scariest, the scary thing that he suspected was going to happen did end up happening. 14 ICE plainclothes officers rolled up to his immigration hearing, his naturalization ceremony, what was supposed to be his naturalization ceremony, and detained him. They apprehended him and they put him in prison. And in the process, there wasn't a lot of fuss about this, with some very important and notable exceptions. I will admit, Bernie Sanders, I think, really disappointed me in this. But you know who didn't disappoint me? Ed Markey. You know who didn't disappoint me? The other Vermont senator. What's his name? Pete Wench? What was the other? No. Yeah, it's Peter Welsh. Sorry. Just like Peter Welsh, United States Senator from Vermont, he went and he talked to Mosen directly, and he offered him a microphone. He offered he basically showed his plight to the rest of the world. He showed his plight to America. Okay, this was his interview. This was his last interview, by the way. Speaking to CBS's what is her name? Lilia Luciano, one day before his scheduled citizenship interview in Vermont, where the Columbia student and Palestinian activist was detained by immigration agents, where he told CBS, the work and activism that we have done was centered in the energy of love. We did it because of our love for humanity, our love for justice, our love for human rights. I want people to know my compassion extended beyond the Palestinian people. My compassion is also for the Jewish people and the Israelis as well. And in spite of all of that, they still arrested him. They still detained him. They still tried to accelerate the process of revoking his green card. And for what? A First Amendment violation. An incredibly scary precedent is on the verge of being set by this administration. They are trying to tackle this issue from the perspective. They're trying to tackle this issue from the perspective of immigration enforcement, where they want to say non-citizens do not have the same constitutional protections that citizens have. Can we watch the e-debate now, please? I need to go to sleep shortly. It hasn't started yet. What the fuck do you want me to do? Do you want me to go forward in time? God damn, some of you guys are so fucking horny for drama. Jesus Christ, dude. Let me fucking talk about real issues that matter, okay? As I was saying, right now as it stands, contrary to the popular opinion of dumb reactionaries in the United States of America, as long as you are on U.S. soil, documented, undocumented, citizen, non-citizen alike, you are protected by the Constitution. The Constitution offers you protections against government overreach. That's what the Constitution is there to do, okay? The Trump administration is trying to tackle this problem because it's a problem for them, because they don't want the First Amendment to exist. They don't want many constitutional protections to exist. Unlawful search and seizure is another constitutional protection that they don't want. And they've actually been able to get away with revoking the Fourth Amendment, 14th Amendment, and even freedom of speech in many instances, as a matter of fact. They've been able to take advantage of the previous erosions of certain constitutional amendments. And the way that they are doing this is so nefarious, but so visible. They're doing it in broad daylight. They are using immigration enforcement to decouple non-citizens, okay, non-citizens as being protected by the Constitution. It is unconstitutional what they're doing here, okay? They are trying to erode due process. They are trying to take away the First Amendment rights of non-citizens. And they keep claiming that the non-citizens are actually devoid of constitutional protections anyway. This is a very dangerous precedent, especially when paired up with an erosion of the erosion of due process. Because once you take away due process, you can never show that you are a citizen. And the Trump administration has deported citizens already, citizen children, as a matter of fact, alongside their non-citizen parents. Understand that this is a major, major victory for civil liberties in this country, but it's not done yet. Yeah. And I'm glad that the judge openly admitted that even if he was a firebrand, even if he said stuff that I haven't even said, he has every right to remain on U.S. soil. You can 100%, if we're talking about constitutional protections, you can literally say whatever the fuck you want as a green card recipient and not get in trouble for it on that alone. You can't incite a riot, right? You can't do that. You can't do that. That is illegal. That's a separate offense. But you cannot be deported, which is a very high criminal penalty for simply saying things, for simply doing hate speech even. I'm not even talking about what Mosen said, okay? I'm talking about like Nazi demonstrations of neo-Nazi shit. The Constitution protects citizens and non-citizens alike from demonstrating or from being prosecuted for demonstrating. That's the whole point. And these guys aren't doing that anyway. But I need you to understand that there's a reason why the First Amendment exists. And this is precisely that reason. It is so that a fascist administrative state can't just unjustifiably revoke your legal status on U.S. soil for the crime of saying fuck Israel, which Mosen didn't even say, by the way. But I'm glad that this judge also put his foot down and even said, even if he's a peaceful figure, but he has rights, even if he were a firebrand, as I said as well. Remember, I said these exact same words. Jeffrey Crawford, the judge in Wednesday's ruling, wrote that those who know Madawi describe him as a peaceful figure who seeks consensus in a highly charged political environment. But Crawford added, even if he were a firebrand, his conduct is protected by the First Amendment. The court is aware that he has offended his political opponents and apparently given rise to concerns at the State Department that he's an obstacle to American foreign policy. Such conduct is insufficient to support a finding that he is in any way a danger, as we use that term in the context of detention and release. Legal residents not charged with crimes or misconduct are being arrested and threatened with deportation for stating their views on the political issues of the day, Crawford said, citing the Red Scare and McCarthy-era targeting of people for their political views. The wheel of history has come around again, but as before, these times of excess will pass. But as before, these times of excess will pass. What an incredible statement from this fucking judge. And it's shocking because, like, in this day and age, the situation in America has gotten so off balance, so imaginably broken, that when a judge says, no, the law is the fucking law, he is not an activist judge at all. He is just abiding by the constitutional standards that were set. These are some of the best aspects of the American Constitution. Like, I often say, fuck the Constitution. I wipe my ass with it because the interpretation of the Constitution is so damaged at this point by activist judges put into positions of power by the Federalist Society over a 40-year-long project where they basically revoked super precedents that they said they would never touch, like Roe v. Wade, right? Having said that, there are certain protections that, like, liberalism has afforded to all people that were better than previous previous forms of governance. We are not living in the time of monarchs or feudal peasants at this point. And it's crazy to me that fascism in many ways tries to go back to that, tries to claw back the restrictions that have been set by not only the social contract, but directly by putting pen to paper in the form of the fucking constitutional amendments. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Due process and First Amendment protections are fundamental. Those are the only good things about America. The fact that those have been eroded in the past for political purpose, like the McCarthyist Red Scare trials, is already a dark period of American history. It is completely unacceptable. It is completely fucking unacceptable. And I'm so glad that there are, like, still people in positions of power. Their power is waning, for the record, because Trump also sees this as a hurdle to implement his fascist agenda. Okay? And wants to arrest these people. Like, that's what's so crazy. They want to fucking arrest these judges too. They want to revoke the separation of powers. They want the judicial body to no longer have no longer function as a separate entity. Like, think about that. There's no checks and balances at that point. That's the whole fucking purpose for how this society was designed. I thought people loved this shit. I thought this was what it was all about, you know? This is what America is supposed to be about. These are the good things of America and American society. Oh, judge noted that he received 90 submissions from community members, experts, professors who attested to Mosen's character, many of them being Jews. Yeah, I also do need you to understand, okay? People will say, like, Jewish exceptionalism, blah, 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 blah. Like, we live in the United States of America, okay? There is a reason why you have to manage the way you talk about these issues. We live in the fucking Western world. Americans are very one note. They don't have the same based opinion of constantly offering critical support to any sort of militancy that is against America. You need this kind of defense. It sucks, but it's the truth. And this is good because this sets a precedent of defense against the administration taking even more erroneous and belligerent actions against people who are in violation of the laws that they have set forth on their own, as to claim that you can't say anything mean about fucking Israel. In granting the release of Madawi, the judge noted that the court had received more than 90 submissions from community members, academic experts, and professors who know Madawi, many of them Jewish, attesting to his character and consistently describing him as peaceful. Can we stop pretending that precedent matters like at all right now? Oh my God. Oh my God. Listen to me. Listen to my words. This doesn't mean that it's over. This doesn't mean that this battle is done. But just stop fucking complaining when things move slowly in the positive direction, even by a fucking inch. This is objectively a good thing. A lot of you are too young, I think, to understand how much time and how much steady flow of information must be hammered into the minds of the fucking Americans for them to basically comprehend what's going on. Trump has shown he doesn't care, though. I know he doesn't care, but it does not matter. This action against Mohsen Mahdawi and this action against Mahmoud Khalil and Rumeysa Öztürk and many others was already his lack of care being demonstrated. So don't fucking look a gift horse in the goddamn mouth, okay? What's the alternative? That he just fucking gets packed out? He gets shipped out of the country? What's the alternative? He goes to the fucking West Bank, gets shot by Israel or detained permanently, and in the process, America sets a new precedent that non-citizens don't have any fucking rights, and that simultaneously non-citizens don't have any constitutional protections, even if they're green card recipients, even if they're legal permanent residents. They have a green card. They're basically about to become American citizens, right? And now it's over. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. You can't say anything about Israel. You can get fucking ethered. You can just get lasered out of existence. They'll just ship your ass to CCOT. It does not matter that the Trump administration doesn't care about due process or doesn't care about the rule of law. You still have to use things that exist, defenses that exist to your advantage. Do you not understand this argument? I just brought up the fact that, there are constitutional interpretive hurdles in front of making progress in this goddamn country. Like when it comes to gun control, for example, right? The Second Amendment and its false interpretation is a major hurdle in achieving any sort of reasonable gun safety measures, okay? We can't do it. We just simply can't do it, and it's because of this false interpretation. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't keep attempting. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't keep trying. That doesn't mean you throw the entire Constitution in the trash or don't use the existing institutions and what remains of their institutional defense capabilities to your advantage in this process to basically put a stopgap measure on growing fascism in this country. Use the tools that are given to you to your advantage to keep pushing. An anonymous gifter, thank you for the 50 gifted subs. Why is it not worse than it is right now? What's stopping an ICE agent for taking this protesters to El Salvador? Anyway, I'm like I said, this is a fantastic moment. This is incredible victory. And it's just the beginning. Like I said, with Chris Van Hollen going down to CCOT to see Kilmar Abrego Garcia in person and get proof of life and have him actually shipped out of CCOT to a different detention facility, that was a major victory. That was a good start. That was a major battle won. It's not the war. This is not a victory. This is a bare minimum. No, it is a victorious battle. It is not the end of the war, okay? The war is still ongoing. The war against fascism is still happening. But this is a battle, a very important battle. And there's still plenty more to fight. A lot of you think that the struggle against fascism is supposed to happen overnight with a momentous, spontaneous, revolutionary victory that happens overnight. And all you have to do is post a little bit on Twitter and then boom. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. Okay. It takes years and years and years of constantly trying to convince people. And you should remember that. That's why I always tell you, Being a leftist is all about taking L's over and over and over again and trying to find the marginal victories that you see as you move society in the right direction day in and day out. Maybe you convinced one person yesterday and that person convinced another tomorrow. That is how this grows. That is how this movement grows. And it's just like that. This little victory in this battle is important because the media now covers it. And then now more people are aware of the depravity of this administration. Okay? So stop. Stop with a defeatist attitude to have in this very moment.
Wait. And the Mohawk people who used to live here and who we are standing on their remainings. I say aho mitakuya uyasan, all of my relations. Second part, I want to thank all of you here. I want to thank everyone who held the sign, who raised their voice, who wrote a post, who contacted their representatives, who sang a song, who made a prayer. Thank you.
And by the way, there's a big scoop coming from the Bulwark where Hakeem Jeffries, is actually telling Democrats he doesn't want more trips to El Salvador. Okay? That's another hurdle. That is a self-imposed hurdle from the supposed counterbalance, the supposed countermeasure against growing fascism in this country. This is one of the leaders of the Democratic Party using his leadership role to basically undermine radical change, popular change. And I need you to understand, he is also absolutely standing in the way of progress. Okay? And he will be yelled at and he will pull it back, or his office will dispute it or something like that. But if there are hurdles amongst your own ranks in terms of doing the right thing, if Hakeem Jeffries is an enemy to progress, then you just need to communicate that to people and say, this person is horrible. He's not doing his fucking job. Same with Chuck Schumer, another leader in the Democratic Party. What is Chuck Schumer worried about? What is Chuck Schumer focusing on? Silly ass nonsense in this time where one of his constituents was basically grabbed by plainclothes officers and unjustifiably shipped off to a Louisiana detention facility to be deported for the crime of being a student leader, a student protest leader, being the face of a student protest movement in Colombia, being on the right side of history against the apartheid state of Israel, doing a fucking genocide. And Chuck Schumer is too busy going on his book tour talking about how the left has a real anti-Semitism problem and lightly agreeing with Donald Trump on how to deal with these bad boys, okay? These bad guys who are saying mean things about the state of Israel, who he seemingly cares a lot about, okay? Instead of but also criticizing Trump with a stern letter that he wrote alongside Cory Booker and many of these other charlatans to say, well, you just didn't go about it the right way. You didn't go about it the right way. We are totally on board with you actually doing this deportation agenda against criticizers of Israel, but you just have to do it the right way. What do you mean do it the right way? There is no right way to deport someone for saying mean things about Israel. What the fuck are you talking about? There's no way. This is the United States of America. It's one of the most important aspects of American civilization is that you can say this kind of stuff and not be penalized by the government. That's the whole purpose of the First Amendment. This is what it was set up for, okay? This is literally what it was designed for. That's the whole purpose of the First Amendment. Free speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of expression. This is the reason, to be able to speak out and organize and express your thoughts against growing fascism. That's like the whole point. Maybe not fascism at the time, but like, you know, against monarchy, unjustifiable constructs, against tyranny. That was the whole purpose, right? The American Revolution. What the fuck was this whole thing about? Just killing Native Americans and having slaves? Is that what the whole thing was? I mean, that was certainly an important aspect of it, but like this was the good stuff. What are we doing? But the reason why I bring up this fucking dumbass is because his approval rating is the lowest in Congress right now. His approval rating is the lowest in the Republican leadership, in the Democratic leadership. His approval rating is worse than Donald Trump. Like, he is in the shitter, and there's a reason for it, because while all of this stuff is happening, let's take a look at what this guy is focusing on, okay? I'm still here. Brief F. Ay, ay, ay. So goddamn annoying. Why? Why does it always happen like this? Ay, ay, ay. I'm here. I'm back. Every goddamn day, dude. There's gonna be a point, and every day, there's gonna be a point where every single day, there's gonna be a moment where I just get like that brief F, and I don't know why it happens. And it's not my CPU. It's not my CPU. It's not my CPU. Okay, it's not my CPU, and it's not even my. I don't even know if it's my ISP or not. It's Chuck Schumer. That's what happened. Chuck Schumer clapped me. Chuck Schumer sending a warning. He's like, "Don't talk shit. Don't you dare talk shit, big dog. I'll come after you." He said, Hassan, you think you can stream? You think you can stream, Hassan?
Hell no.
That's what he said. Were you silent or were you silenced? Yeah. Hey, dude, I don't want to backseat, but have you considered it might be because you're a stupid idiot baby? Fuck, I didn't consider that. I did not consider that, chatter. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. It's probably because I'm a stupid idiot baby. Fucking dumbass. You're so stupid. Yeah. Chuck Schumer, is it because I'm a stupid idiot baby? Is that the reason why I can't stream? Is that what's going on?
Hell no.
Yeah, well, guess what? Chuck thinks, no. Yeah. Americans love to believe the mythology of the revolution and to think of themselves in that mythology, but the fact of the matter is Americans are too lazy or caught up in their own lives to really do anything unless it directly affects them. It's fine. Our purpose, our job here, my job especially, is to have a bullhorn, to yell at people, to help them understand that this is going to impact them. That is what I do every single day, and I will continue to do so. Okay? That is what I do. That is my job. And that should be your job as well. My job is to urge you to also do this exact same thing to people in your immediate vicinity. There are 30,000 plus people in here. We can make an impact. We are making an impact. We are changing people's minds every single day. Remember that. Be kind to people, be ruthless to systems, and keep talking to others and engage in the act of protest. Get other people involved. Get your family members involved. You just have to keep working. That is the reason why I think it's important to recognize when there is a victory, albeit is it Pyrrhic or Pyrrhic? I know people yell at me when I say it wrong. Like, even if there's a small victory, you cannot discard this. You cannot say that this is unimportant. This is stupid. This is important. This is important. This is important because this will cause more people to pay attention to it. This will make people aware of the depravity. And it is your opportunity in this very moment to tie this back to individual liberties that Americans do care about. Maybe they don't give a shit about Israel. Maybe they're a little worried. Mohsen Madawi, that sounds like a brown guy. It sounds kind of scary to me. But you got to make people understand that this is an attack against the First Amendment because every American does care about that.
A Columbia student detained by ICE is now free after a federal judge ordered his immediate release.
It's not a Pyrrhic victory anyway. It's not a useless victory, but it is a costly one.
For U.S. citizenship. The judge says his 2 weeks in detention demonstrate great harm to a person who has been charged with no crime. Now, Madawi says he has faith in the justice system, saying injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
If we have faith in our beliefs, unshakable beliefs, which is the belief that justice is inevitable, we will not fear anyone because our fight is a fight for democracy, is a fight for humanity. Amen. To President Trump and his cabinet, yes, I am not afraid of you.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And let's bring in ABC News immigration reporter Armando Garcia for more. Armando, what more can you tell us about this decision and the significance here?
Well, it's definitely very significant because we got to remember Mohsen Madawi is just one of several students right now that are in immigration detention centers across the country being targeted by the Trump administration for their role in the pro-Palestinian protests on campuses. In his ruling, the judge said that Mohsen should be allowed to continue his studies. As we've reported, he is expected to graduate next year, in just a few weeks next month. But also, this is just really, really stunning because a lot of people are going to be looking at this case. As I mentioned, there's a lot of students that have been targeted by the Trump administration for similar reasons, but they're still in detention.
Yeah, I'll work to get Madawi on. I'm sure there's plenty of people that are in the chat right now that know him personally. I would love to have him on. Mohsen, I know you're probably pretty busy right now, but I would love to have you on the broadcast. Is he actually free? Because Courts also said Kilmar should be free, but isn't. No, he's literally walking free currently, so he is free. That's, I mean, I don't know for how long. They might try to do some fuck shit once again, but yeah. I know someone who might possibly know someone who probably knows him. He's free, but he's still pending the case. He's just out on bail. I know, but he's functionally free. Part of that is because he was apprehended in Vermont, and they were able to have an expeditious trial on a bail determination. Like that was, these are the reasons as to why normally ICE will move very fast to take you out and put you in Jenna, right? Like to put you in a Louisiana detention facility, like they did with Mahmoud Khalil, and that complicates things. But it's a deliberate design. So why are you angry at Bernie? The reason why I'm not angry at Bernie, I'm disappointed with Bernie because Pete Welch actually went. Peter Welch is a Vermont senator, just like Bernie Sanders is. He actually went to the detention facility and talked directly to Mohsen Mahdawi, and Bernie did not do that. And I wanted him to do that. I wanted him to not just like write tweets about how terrible this is or talk about it in his protests, talk about it in his like fighting the oligarchy rallies, but like to directly take action. I wish that he would have done that. I think that this is important enough, given that this is your constituent, this is important enough to make time for. I'm sorry, before people say there is an fighting oligarchy tour, like you are misunderstanding, because the inevitability of Mohsen's release would have shown Americans that there is a way out of this, okay? This is all about not just organizing people and getting them together and engaging in the act of catharsis and saying, oh, wow, look how bad the situation is, okay? This is about mobilizing people. Bernie Sanders has an incredible mobilization capacity. He is bringing out 30,000 people, okay? He is bringing out 30,000 people to go listen to him, to go listen to AOC. I think it was a major mistake not to take this momentum and then focus it directionally on some of these issues that he does speak about, right? And that's why, I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. I actually DM'd Faiz, okay? I DM'd Faiz a while back, and I was like, listen, he has not responded. He doesn't follow me back, so maybe he didn't see it. But I DM'd him, and I was like, is Bernie thinking about doing any of this? Like, is he thinking about like actually showing up to one of these events? As you guys know, because I think it's like, I say, hey man, does Bernie plan on doing something around Mohsen or Mahmoud's release? Would love to participate in that and work to get as much coverage as possible. And part of the reason why I wanted this to happen was because the more people are involved in this, the more media attention is on the story. And the more media attention is on the story, the more people understand the depravity, right? The rallies aren't at all incompatible. Hold one in front of ICE. No, I mean, my expectation is not that he rallies in front of ICE. That would be great, right? That would be awesome. But what Peter Welch did was fantastic. He went to the facility. He got access to Mohsen. He talked to him directly. You know, this is how you do it. And before people say he declined, fuck Bernie, he's no ally, shut up, chatters. You can express your disappointment with your comrades. You can express disappointment with people that you are by and large in agreement with, okay? Calm down. I'm just explaining what I think would have been a fortuitous, even politically fortuitous moment that Bernie Sanders and AOC could have capitalized on as well, knowing full well that if they were to offer a megaphone to this cause, that one, they would associate themselves, or they would basically calcify their position as like defenders of the First Amendment, as going up against this administration's unjustifiable policies of eroding the First Amendment. And they would have been able to do additional conferences on top of this to say, like, look, see, we are showing, like, they would have been able to instill confidence in their mobilization. They would have been able to instill confidence in being able to make changes, no matter how tiny it may seem right now, by mobilizing people directionally like this. This is why I kept saying, like, I think politicians are doing a great job. Like Bernie Sanders is doing a great job. AOC is doing a great job with organizing and getting people to come out to rallies. But I think they should be mobilizing them directionally against some of these causes as well, in an effort to show the people that they are bringing out to these rallies that there is a different path forward. There is a way to put people first, and there is a way to get bodies into these there's a way to get bodies into these rooms that will actually cause people to second guess before they make these fascist decisions. I also think there's another issue here. Yes, I think they should be endorsing Zoran as well. Yes, I think Bernie and AOC should be using some of this opportunity that they have, using some of this media momentum that they've developed by going out and doing these rallies to offer Zoran something he needs desperately to win this New York mayoral race, and that is name recognition. Zoran's biggest hurdle right now is name recognition. He's locked down the irony poisoned Zoomers and all the leftists and the DSA types and everybody else. They love him. I love him. He's great. He needs to get the aunties and the uncles. He needs to get the black and Latino and all of the other like unks and aunties to be on board. And I think the only thing that needs to happen for that to happen is to get in front of them. That's it. And they would get in front. Zoran's name would get in front of them, I think, if AOC and Bernie actually endorsed them. And I suspect that they will. They probably are not doing it yet because they're going to do like a maximum impact endorsement, I suspect. I hope. Because if they don't, oh my God, that would be so disappointing. Like that would be incredibly disappointing. Yeah, if they go with Brad Lander, who is the safe choice, he's not like a horrible person either. But if they go with Brad Lander, that will be really sad because Brad doesn't have the juice. Zoran does. Zoran is the #1 pick right now. And people will say cowardly, oh, it's ranked choice voting, so who cares? Like, as long as you're going after a progressive slant. Yeah, it's cowardly because Zoran needs name recognition and doesn't have it. If he got that name recognition... If he got that name recognition, he would absolutely explode in popularity. He would become a genuine oppositional figure to unseat, like to ruin the chances of Andrew Cuomo. That is the major hurdle here. This is precisely why it has to be deliberate. An endorsement has to be deliberate, and it has to directly say Zoran so that people look him up.
Mr. Khalil has just been ordered removable under 1 count under the administration's charges against him. So this is something definitely that they're going to be using to see if they could find relief for their clients as well.
So as you say, he's not the only student who's been detained over pro-Palestinian activism. You're kind of touching on this, but can you tell a little bit more about how
Some chatters are defending Bernie by saying it's called being strategic, but they don't understand there was nothing strategic about it. No, there was, if anything, it would have been brilliant for Bernie to use all of the momentum he has. Bernie Sanders is old, yes, but he has a lot of momentum. He has a lot of motion, okay? This is a gimme. This is not only going to elevate his status as someone who is a real fighter against the administration, this is going to be a mutually beneficial. It would have been a mutually beneficial movement because this way, not only does he look like he played a role in this release, okay, is easy W, but also on top of that, he gets to instill confidence in his audience. He gets to instill confidence in his followers that their voices matter. That is what we have to do right now, because a lot of people, especially in the aftermath of what took place in 2020, where they went out and they protested Black Lives Matter, throw up the black fist, commodification of radical movements and a neutering of radical movements. 8 can't wait. Democrats actually, after COVID, go out and win the election. People did everything. People did everything that they were supposed to do. If you're an elderly Gen Z or a young millennial, you took it to the streets and you protested. You fucked shit up. You yelled from the rooftops. Then you went out and you voted. You voted for Biden. You voted for Brandon, who was supposed to be the oppositional figure that was better than Donald Trump. And you saw nothing in return for that. You saw nothing in return for that. Okay? That, I think, played a major role in ruining the confidence of an entire generation where they saw nothing from doing all of the right things. Because when you, in popular culture, in the books that you read, what do you hear? You hear that you take it to the streets and you protest, you engage in civil disobedience, then you go out and you vote and you do your civic duty. And then change is supposed to happen. But no change comes in the aftermath of that. What does that do? What does that do to the collective consciousness of an entire generation? It causes despair. It causes nihilism. A lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people are completely oblivious to it, where they think like, oh, well, they discount it. They think, oh, well, whatever, you know, that's just politics, baby. That is how it is. That is not how it's supposed to be. We must also combat apathy. And a great way to do that is by not only mobilizing people, not only organizing people to go to the rallies, right, but to mobilize them directionally against the causes you care about. And if it wasn't about Israel, Palestine, let's say, and about something else that Bernie talks about, because he talks about this as well. He doesn't think this is a justifiable position, okay? Before people go crazy and be like, yo, Bernie's just an ultra-Zionist and, you know, he loves Itamar Ben-Gvir. That's why he's not saying anything. Like, no, that's not the case either. I mean, he said abhorrent things, for sure. You know, 17 months into a genocide saying Israel's right to defend itself, that is abhorrent. Like, that is ridiculous. And he's been outflanked by people who are succeeding him, like AOC and many others. He's not shy about endorsing people who have more radical positions than him on this issue. Okay? Having said that, he has been an active defender of the First Amendment and has defended the First Amendment against BDS, against AIPAC in the past when no other congressperson ever talked about it. This is precisely the reason why I tried to broach the subject matter from the point of view of First Amendment protections when talking about Mahmoud Khalil when I was face to face with Bernie before his Nevada rally. We didn't have enough time to get into it, but that is what I think. That is what I think Bernie should be doing, because I know he cares about this. I know this is an issue that he does care about. It's not secondary for him. It's not inconsequential for him. And not only that, but that's why I'm disappointed about him not showing up for Mosem specifically, because he was his constituent. What do you mean free speech against BDS? Bernie Sanders and Dianne Feinstein are the two figures in the Senate, the only two lone senators that have criticized anti-BDS legislation that passed in, like, at that point, it was like 20 states or something. This was a decade ago. Yes, she's dead now. My point is, at the time when anti-BDS legislation was passing in states like Texas, which I'm going to be talking about in a little bit, okay, with the Governor Greg Abbott going ultra woke mode in defense of the state of Israel in the state of Texas. But, you know, those are the two people that fucking actively criticized this shit. Where did you go last night? You ended early. I want to watch the VOD. I went to do the podcast with the girly pops. I went to whine about it. It's not live, but it will be out. Yeah. Here, this is it. Look. Sanders, Feinstein urged Senate to reject anti-BDS bill. Threat to free speech. Two of the most prominent Jewish members of the Senate warned that the Israel Anti-Boycott Act will harm free speech in the United States. This is from December 19, 2018. I wish he would mobilize people, even if he doesn't care about the issue, but I do know he cares about it, right? I know he cares about this. But even if he didn't care about the issue from the perspective of like defending people's free speech or whatever, this is an opportunity to galvanize and embolden your audience. This is an opportunity to combat the apathy that they feel. It is a way to show with your work that you putting bodies in front of this issue, you mobilizing people in front of issues directionally, engaging in direct action and participating in civil disobedience works. That's my point. I hope people can understand what I'm saying here. The Vermont congressional delegation, 2 senators and 1 rep, have a joint statement applauding the decision to free Mohsen Mahdawi. Senator Bernie Sanders, Peter Welch, and Representative Becca Balint today released the following statement after Judge Jeffrey Crawford ordered the release of Mohsen Mahdawi who was illegally detained by the Trump administration. We are relieved that Mohsen Mahdawi was released on bail from ICE detention in Vermont and that the constitutional right to due process prevailed. Mohsen Mahdawi is here in the United States legally and acted legally. He should never experience this grave injustice, said Sanders, Welch, and Balint. The Trump administration's actions in this case and in so many other cases of wrongfully detained, deported, and disappeared people are shameful and immoral. This is an important first step. We will continue to fight against President Trump's assault on the rule of law. I understand. What's the point of having 30K people if you're not going to use them for something? Exactly. But I do. But that's the thing. What do? I want Bernie to do more of what I do, which is to like go out there. You know what I mean? Ironically enough, why do I go out there? Why do I speak on fucking protests? Why do I go out to rallies? Because I want you to do the same. You know, I want not only for people to gather in rallies and engage in the act of catharsis, which is important to do. Okay. It's important for people to recognize how horrible things actually are. That's the first step. Awareness is the first step. But after awareness, you have to move on to organizing. And after you organize, you have to mobilize. Anyway, here's another fantastic thing that took place, of course, in the aftermath of the release of Mohsen Mahdawi. Shai Davide is crying. I don't want to talk about Mohsen Mahdawi being released from prison. Soon we will all pay for Mohsen's freedom. Yeah. I was a leftist for a long time, but it's extremely helpful to gather and discuss because I run out of steam trying to wake up fucking normies. Yeah. He's crying. Shy David. Shy David. Yeah. Shy David, baby. Fucking bitch made, by the way. What a ginormous bitch Shy Davide is, crying that the Trump administration did not force through an unjustifiable apprehension and revocation of legal permanent residency status from a person who didn't even do anything wrong to Shy, by the way. He actually, Mohsen, is one of these guys that's like impossible to persecute, okay? He is too peaceful for his own good, I would say. From what I understand, Mohsen actually met Shy and had what he thought was a productive conversation, but that fucking lunatic turned around and demanded his detention, his permanent detention. God damn. Is no one going to think about my feelings? Like, why? Why is it always your feelings that matter in this process? Why can't we erode? Why can't we erode constitutional protections? My feelings were hurt when you said Israel is bad. Nazi freak, dude. Nazi freak with the mind of a petulant child. This is the problem. I can't believe that these guys get to dominate discourse, dude. Holy fuck. How selfish. Like, if you had a sense of shame, you would recognize your own moral depravity, okay? You would recognize your own moral depravity and you would shut the fuck up, at least. Because there's plenty of people out there who were popping off, if you recall, in the early month of October in 2023. They are silent now. Why? Because at least they understand the capacity to feel shame, where they're like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't be chirping right now. Maybe I shouldn't be putting myself in the forefront of this conversation in this incredibly selfish capacity. Anyway, speaking of petulant children, let's go and watch a lecture that is currently taking place on the H3 podcast. My former podcast co-host is talking to Sam Seder. I believe it's supposed to happen soon.
I know he has 2 losses. I have 2 losses.
I don't know what this is. I don't know what the fuck he's watching at. Where is Sam Seder?
Because he's like
Where's Sam Seder?
I think you'd win.
I mean,
and I think everyone would be wanting you to win.
You cry and complain about propaganda and the rights of leftist free speech under attack. You literally are a leftist propagandist and time out or ban anyone who has a difference in opinion. You weren't complaining when right wingers were getting censored and canceled during previous years. Hypocrite law. Keep losing, you fucking loser. The right owns the world, and you have no power. Cupcake, hysterical DEIs. Point to me a singular right wing person that has been jailed specifically for their speech. Give me an instance where the Brandonian administration actually took out a right-wing organizer specifically for speech, for exercising their First Amendment rights, because that would be unconscionable and repugnant and immoral. Go ahead. They're going to say January 6th. Come on, dude. Dude, if brown dudes wearing keffiyehs stormed the fucking Capitol, they would be melted with machine gun fire. What are we talking about, January 6th? Go ahead. Tell me about Do you know what the First Amendment is supposed to protect you from? It's not to protect you or shelter you from criticism for exercising your free speech. It is supposed to protect you from the government enforcing your speech, the government controlling your speech. It's a protection for you against the government. Anyway, Sam is on. Let's take a look.
What a fucking nightmare.
How have you been, Sam, since we ruined Steven Crowder's life together? Nice to see you again.
I've been feeling very badly for him.
Yes,
over the years.
It's a tragic loss of a great career and so much potential.
Yes, it is. Hey, are we live now?
We are live on the H3 channel, yes.
I want to just start by sort of apologizing in that I sent you a DM on Twitter 6 months ago or something. I was just going through to find out, and then I just realized you're no longer on Twitter.
Yeah.
So that
he
explains why.
Does on go in his chat? What do you mean?
He may no. Yeah, I didn't see it. I wish I would have, but honestly, what
do you mean?
I don't know what to do because like I want to get off Twitter, but also it's kind of a pain because Twitter is the way that like I would reach out and speak to most people. But I also don't want to be on a platform that's like owned and perpetuates basically like Nazi
Why would
shit,
I go in his chat?
Yeah, this was yes, I understand that.
Yeah,
but I just wanted you to know I did reach out, and it was on me not to realize that. I just assumed you didn't want to respond, but
okay, well, that's nice to know that you reached out. I appreciate that. And the reason, I mean, obviously, people have been pushing for this conversation. I don't know if you know like the whole lore of it, the background of it. I
mean, this is all I know is that Hassan reached out to me sometime. I mean, I got in touch with you October 24th, and I said that I was meaning to reach out for a couple of weeks. So I assume it was sometime in early October. And my thought we were just going to do this off air, but
that's what I wanted.
My
I was
understanding
like, talk to him
is that you and he were getting into it, and you felt like because he wasn't Jewish, he didn't have a perspective on this, and that's why he suggested that you speak to me. I don't speak for all Jews, just to be clear.
Right.
I speak only for myself as a in any form.
Well,
whatsoever.
Sam, allow me to speak for all Jews, if I may, today.
Please.
No, actually, I mean that's a total mischaracterization, which is kind of my problem with Hassan, which we can get into if you want. We don't even have to talk about Hassan, but basically, what I told him was that I was citing polling data that shows that about 70 to 80% of diaspora Jews have some kind of positive feelings
Sam
towards
is
the
going to
state
cook
of
his
Israel.
ass. He's going to
And
be
he
like, that's
was
faulty
disagreeing
data.
with
It's
me.
bullshit.
And, I mean, this is available by polls, readily available by Pew Research just last month, showing that, and I have, I don't know if you're quite, if you agree with that.
That's American Jews saying Israel's important to them. Israel's important to me, but that doesn't mean that I like Israel.
At least positive feelings about the state of Israel. I was stating that fact to him, and he was saying that I was wrong.
That is just
and
a
I
question
said, who are you to
answered
talk
by
about this? I did not
diaspora
say
Jews about whether Israel is important to them or not. That doesn't mean that they're Zionists. Israel's important to me in my life as well.
That's not what I took him to say, but yeah, I mean, Hassan is that's irrelevant to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that I haven't seen that poll. I've seen ones that have said that they have a connection. They feel a connection, either strong or somewhat.
Yeah.
Which is different than positive per se.
So
but regardless, I mean, I think if I don't know your upbringing at all, but I mean, certainly my upbringing, my Hebrew education was, I would say, 1/3 Holocaust, and I'm older, and so this was in the 70s, 1/3 into the 80s, 1/3 Holocaust, 1/3 Israel, 1/3 Hebrew, Hebrew and Jewish culture, and I certainly feel a strong connection to Israel, but I wouldn't call it positive these days.
Sure. I think what the poll attempts to is basically, if you ask Hassan or a lot of people on the left, I think an emotional attachment is the way to describe this. So it's like if you think
I certainly have an emotional attachment, and it's not but it's not. I wouldn't describe it as positive.
This isn't the one, is it, Dan?
There's
one that shows 73%.
Dude, he's saying just because you have an attachment to Israel doesn't mean
anyway,
that
it doesn't really
Zionist.
matter. Regardless, basically, I want to flesh out my ideas, my thoughts, because I'm being characterized by Hassan and a lot of his cohorts as being, a Zionist, being pro-Israel, being a Israel apologist, being a genocide supporter, being a baby killer, being married to a baby killer, et cetera, right? My wife is Israeli. I don't know if you know that. So basically, I would like to just take the opportunity to explain my ideas, what I think about Israel, and you can tell me what you think, because apparently I will only listen to other Jewish people. So finally, I can speak to someone whose opinion matters to me. So thank you. As the official sanctioned Jewish man, Sam Seder, everybody.
No one said that.
100% Ashkenazi.
That is also a mischaracterization. He has,
I haven't
lived experience,
but
and he trusts.
I'm quite sure I have some Sephardic Jewish ancestry too. So I would mix.
That's good.
Vilnius and Hungary, I think.
Good for you. I think that's always a good thing. My friend, I'm 99.3%, so that's my that's where my authority comes from.
I'll take your word.
So at any rate, let me start here by showing you a little context.
Oh, let me also just say I got about an hour.
Okay, great.
Get home.
Well, I'll just get into it then. Oh, here it is.
Not enough. That's not enough time, Uncle.
Okay, whatever. So let's start here. Let's start with a little icebreaker here. I know we're both fans of Tim Pool. Okay, let's just enjoy this image together. Tim Pool recently at a wedding.
Wait, what?
And can you see that?
Did he get married?
Well, I think he's attending a wedding.
Okay.
And he's very formally dressed, except he appears to be wearing a beanie.
I would.
Oh my God, he's filibustering, bro!
So I don't know.
Why are you filibustering the conversation?
Fine look for our good friend Tim Pool there. Very good.
Nice suit.
Yeah, so, well, let me ask you this. What have you kind of like heard about me? Because I mean, I know that your colleagues have an opinion.
I got to be honest with you. I have not heard much. I have like, the only thing I really saw that came up in any of my mentions on Blue Sky, I'm also on Blue Sky, is just this issue about talking to me, and I had presumed that was it. But I don't, look, from my perspective, I'm not, and I know that there's been, you mentioned in the email that there's been a lot of grief that you have taken, and I know that other people have also taken grief on all sides of this. And, the personal aspects of this, and I don't believe that people. I don't actively attempt to deplatform people. I don't think people should do that. I don't think people should be swatted.
This is not going well.
Try to be fired or whatever, or have CPS sicked on them or any of that. I mean, I just don't think that's appropriate. I mean, I'm more interested in talking about my relationship to Zionism and my perspective on what Israel is doing and what is happening in Gaza. And
I totally agree. Let's just talk about the facts. Let me start by showing you this clip. So I've been actually talking about my feelings on the Israel-Gaza Palestinian dispute situation for a long time. I lived in Israel for 5 years as well when I was with my wife early
Sam
on.
doesn't know the full scope
Here's my
of his
position right after October 7th. And you can tell me if you have any... if you have any comments on any of my positions here, but this was posted on. This was from our episode a few days after October 7th.
He's gonna showcase himself as like pro-Palestinian unconditionally.
Liars and bad faith weirdos. So here's what I'll say about Israel. Okay, listen. This isn't the first time I've said it, and I'll say it many more times. The cabinet is run by genocidal maniacs. Okay, they're led by Netanyahu, who should resign in disgrace and go to prison for being a war criminal. Okay, he's made a coalition of the most radically conservative freaks that don't represent, by the way, the majority of Israelis, and they're hellbent on genocide, frankly, overtly. They've committed tons of war crimes in Gaza, including the killing of children, obviously, because Gaza is one of the most densely populated places in the world.
I wonder what this background is.
50% of the residents are under 18, so when you
things.
bomb a building,
I wonder
the chances that
I
you're
wonder what the
killing
background of
children
this
is
show
pretty much
is that he's
100%.
on, where he's saying these things.
Okay? It's fucking barbaric. It's unacceptable. It's disgusting.
What is Chad
I've
saying?
seen videos, you know, I saw videos of Palestinian dads holding his
Hassan
dead, like,
plugging his ears,
5-year-old
yelling la
daughter.
la la.
I mean,
I was there for this conversation. I know all of this.
I don't need to watch this
precise-
part because it just gets a little too emotional.
This
but
is precisely
I mean,
the
so
reason
that was my
why-
take right
This is
after
precisely the
October
reason why
7th,
I
and
literally
obviously
thought Ethan
that
was with
coming
the
off
cause
end of
for the
me
longest
being,
time.
Like, kind of, I mean, I'm an Israeli citizen. The morning of October 7th, me and my wife were up at 3 a.m. as families were calling into news stations from their safe houses, people being burned alive with their families being murdered while on the phone with news. So coming off of that
Damn,
emotional,
he's so brave. Thank you, Ethan, for saying Palestinians are humans and Israel is doing a genocide even after October 7th.
My reaction. Now, I don't know if there's something Zionist or pro-Israel I said there, but maybe I don't understand.
I mean, I think much of what you said was true. I'm not sure, frankly, if what we've seen Israel do in terms of Gaza is not broadly supported in Israel. I'm not seeing the body politic. I mean, I was doing a lot of interviews with Israeli reporters earlier in 2023 about the protests against what Netanyahu was doing with the judiciary. And there was a question as to whether Israelis would.
He's going to say Sam agrees with me and he hates you because you're anti-Semitic. That's like his goal here is to be like, why have you called me a Zionist when Sam believes that I'm not?
Places like the West Bank and in Gaza in some fashion, and more so the West Bank at that time. And so I think it's hard to make an argument. And look, I would make it's not a perfect analogy as to what's happening in this country, but when you talk about the Israeli population not having a problem with what's going on in Gaza, I don't see a lot of evidence of that. There's certainly, I would imagine, a percentage of Israelis, and I know some of them who think that Israel should stop its assault there, but I don't think I don't see a lot of evidence that a year and a half later,
he's
after
done so
you
much more
said those
Hasbro
things,
since then, so it's like disingenuous for him to present that.
This is not the character of the vast majority of Israeli society. I mean, I'm not necessarily convinced that they are as aware. I mean, I've talked to people who have reported in the West Bank, and they said they would go from the West Bank into Israel, and the lack of awareness of what was happening in the West Bank by Israelis was shocking to them. So, I can't say if the Israeli population had a full understanding of what was happening in Gaza that they wouldn't change their mind, but I don't see a lot of evidence of it.
So, as you touched on, this was made basically before the war started. And I think that the unfortunate, really tragic outcome of the war is how much it's jaded
It's not a war, it's a
and
genocide.
radicalized, I think, people in Israel.
It's not just Benjamin Netanyahu,
It's really,
it's Zionism.
I think people in Israel feel like isolated. They feel like, the sentiment in Israel is basically that the world wants, the country to disappear. And obviously, like, that's a much more nuanced conversation, but the feeling there has definitely radicalized a lot since the war started. It's gotten a lot worse.
Not a war, it's a genocide.
And I think, I think that gets to it to some extent. I mean, you have this wholesale slaughter. I was looking up, we killed in Iraq, depending on what numbers you want to look at, but I think it's safe to say directly hundreds of thousands of people. But even like the number of children that we killed in Iraq, I think has been surpassed by what's happened in Gaza. And I think one of the things that I find shocking is that the sense and look, I experienced this with family members, where the sense that there's a victimization, for instance, let's say on college campus of Jewish students, and I think that to look at what's going on, the totality of what's going on, and to perceive the victims of what's happening here to be the Israeli citizenry or Jews in this country, I think it just blows my mind. I mean,
two people can care about two things at once. Why should people?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
People who are uninvolved in the war, if they're being like victimized in a separate situation because of their Jewish identity, that's a problem, don't you think?
Oh, I do, but
you can care about two things. You can't be like, oh, these people are ridiculous for caring about anti-Semitism on college campuses because the war's happening. I mean, both we can care about two things.
100%.
And obviously, one is way worse, right? One is way worse.
But that's the point. I mean, one is way worse than what's happening in Gaza.
But who should tolerate being discriminated against based on their identity? You know what I mean? Like, of course, who wouldn't react to that?
I don't think that people are. I don't think that people are being victimized. I mean, certainly, listen, anti-Semitism is real. It was real when I was a kid. There was many times I had pennies thrown at me growing up and playing basketball. I mean, there was a lot of experienced anti-Semitism. But put it in the context of
which I agree with. Like
you're a parent, I'm a parent.
Well.
If my kid is going through something very difficult, it's obviously difficult for me, but it's more difficult for them. And it's a question of prioritizing these things. You can have two thoughts in your head at the same time, but to center oneself or to perceive that one's victimization is sufficient to ignore the
I got to stop you because I don't think I don't know who's doing that.
Well, I just said, like, you just presented as the Israeli population feels like they're isolated and this and that.
There's two different separate conversations. There's like the American Jewry who's like, I have nothing to do with that place, and then the Israelis, right? So like when you're talking about,
in terms of the way that you characterized the Israeli feeling, was that they feel isolated, et cetera, and I can understand that, but to not have the first thought of like, we are
Sam will not let Ethan talk.
Committing, like you say, genocidal acts. And if people want to call it genocide, I don't, obviously it's got to be, it's a legal term, but I think that it's colloquially speaking, at the very least, it is a genocide. And to not recognize that as the fundamental issue, the first issue, I think is blinkered. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, it's a little gobsmacking to me.
Well, so I do agree with you that obviously in Israel, people, I think the problem, and just to say on a higher level, I agree with you. Like obviously the people in Israel compared to like what's on October 7th, they were victims.
That Ethan is being
after everything that's happened,
for
obviously
centering himself in this conversation about how he's been victimized as though he's the biggest victim of this entire fucking genocide
of civilians in Gaza and what's happening in the West Bank too. Lots of awful stuff. That being said, I think the problem with Israel, just to try to explain what's happening there, because I do agree with you, is just like the media apparatus and the feeling that they have there. It's like there's not a lot of space emotionally and like even the information that they're consuming, I think, that would allow them to have that kind of like self-realization. And like you said, a lot of Israelis don't know what's happening
there
necessarily.
Are some. I mean,
there's some.
I'm
yeah,
so
of course,
sorry. They're just simply little old, most powerful country in the region and its citizenry that's championing this fucking
what was going on there.
Of children.
And the paper was essentially, a cutout, or there was an attempt by the government to basically shut them down.
He moved on from him being the victim to
some extent.
Israelis being the victims.
So what's your explanation why Israelis don't care? It's not that they're evil, right?
Well, I think, look, there's, I'm sure that there is a mass, sort of like a failure to deal with trauma. I think some of it is, frankly, is a racism I think, how can you explain, how can I explain how I just watched a clip of people at a Trump rally chanting USA, USA, to watching a video of people being, taken into that prison in El Salvador and having their heads I mean, I don't know how I can explain that. So I don't know how I could explain how the Israelis are able to the extent that they can see what's going on in Gaza, have that reaction. But I know that it's wrong. Off. And I think, some of it undoubtedly is a racism. Some of it is,
Sam is
maybe some type of mass failure to deal with trauma. I mean, I don't know all those things. I think, part of it, I think there's some of the makeup of, immigrants to Israel over the past several decades. I'm sure all of that enters into it.
We had this conversation before.
I'm not in a position to sort of like be able to psychoanalyze it beyond this sort of vague notions.
Sure.
But
yeah, and I agree.
From my perspective, it's gobsmacking, and to me, it has shown, and I never
very well
identified myself as a Zionist as a kid, or through the years, and I never identified myself as an anti-Zionist. I don't think I think those wasn't really until someone heard me articulate my perspective on this that they referred to me as anti-Zionist, and I have, I don't really care one way or another how I'm labeled, but to me it shows a failure of that system of government that Israel has.
It's Zionism. That is the problem.
It has failed both,
and Ethan will never reconcile that.
What I think some people had as a notion of Zionism in the
Hannah Arendt.
19th century.
Hannah Arendt.
It has been a failure in terms of keeping Jews safe, frankly. It seems to have been a massive failure. And so I can't operate as someone who lives in Israel, but I can operate as someone who is an American in terms of like what we support, which is why I think we should end all aid. And as a Jew who sees my religion being used as what I perceive as a fig leaf for what Israelis or Zionists are doing, and so I mean that's where I'm coming.
This is really important.
From
this conversation is great to have. I'm so glad he did this.
Know
I'm so glad Ethan did
if
this.
If there is a psychological state that can justify this.
Oh no, they're too stupid to understand it though.
I don't think there is, and so
it's just an attempt to understand, not justify. Because I mean, it is what it is, right? Like it is the way that it is, and so that's for a reason. And it's just it's just trying to explain it. That's all. I agree with everything you're saying. But actually, one thing I want to pivot to and ask you about.
Do you think that we should cut all aid to Israel?
I think that'd be justifiable. Yeah.
And
we're talking about like military and stuff. Yeah, for sure. Israel.
I mean,
Israel can make their own bombs and shit.
Every
if they need, like, they don't need American military.
Yes,
I agree with you on that.
I think they do need it to do what they're doing, without a doubt. And
well, what I mean is they're not entitled to it. To say more accurately. Yeah. So yeah, I think military aid should be cut for sure until.
As a Jew, and I mean, obviously you have a different connection to Israel than I do, as through your family and whatnot, and through having lived there. But as a Jew,
Ethan W. They're so desperate for Ethan to come across as even remotely
to what is being done, ostensibly to protect me and my family and my ancestors and my progeny and all of it. It is. I mean, I think it's. I think the conflation of Zionism and Judaism is both not keeping Jews safe and is wrong at its core. And we can see what it's even doing in the context of this country. The way that it's enabled Trump and to attack universities and to attack law firms and whatever. And so I don't know.
By the way, I think Ethan is in agreement with Sam here. He's walking back a lot of his positions, but I don't think Gila is in agreement
no, I mean,
with Sam
I
at
agree
all.
with everything you're saying. And part of the reason why, like, this chasm started between me and, you know, Hassan is very influential. So when he decides that somebody is an enemy of the movement, for criticizing him, which is what I perceive happened, then it kind of becomes reality.
All the way up until
his
didn't know the
him not
depravity.
supporting Kamala Harris. Now, would she have stopped the war and been like a perfect dove? I don't know, but I know she would have been better than Trump. I know that for sure. Trump's posting like this insane Riviera, Gaza, the Riviera with Trump hotels. I mean, that's and like he's sending the 20-pound bombs. He's telling Netanyahu, you have a blank check to do whatever you want.
They're watching me as well.
Like, would
it just came out that Biden didn't, did nothing to. I mean, listen, I think.
Well, we're talking about Kamala.
I suspect that
we don't know. We don't know what Kamala would have done.
I suspect.
Like, sure, it'll be marginally better, but we don't know.
She would not have had the same policies as Trump. But at the same time, I think that it was a massive failure, both on a real human level. Like, it would have, I think, had she articulated anything even remotely close to what I would hope her difference would have been.
That's the reason
why
she lost. That was my point.
Had implications in the election, but I think
from Biden's
perhaps even more importantly, it would have maybe
removing herself, not severing her early on. That was my major point of contention with the Kamala Harris campaign. Let her to lose.
I chose to support Harris because I perceived her as the lesser of two evils. But
yeah, me too. And I think that that's an important distinction to make at a time like this. Yeah,
I can certainly understand how some people were just so repulsed by what was happening that it made it almost impossible for them to vote for Harris. I think
I understand why they didn't. I totally understand the perspective. Like, I'm so disillusioned with this administration, I can't support Kamala. But at the same time, like, a hugely influential political streamer like Hassan has a huge influence on people, I think. And who's someone who
was at Kamala Harris. That is a lie.
Who's very vocal about being pro-Palestine. I feel like it's an abdication of responsibility to be like, I'm not voting for Kamala, or I'm not telling you who I voted for. I suspect he voted for Jill Stein personally.
I hate Jill Stein.
But either way, he hasn't said, and he wouldn't endorse her. Now, like, if you're just like a random protester or whatever, and like you're like, I'm so disgusted, I don't want to vote, that's fine. But if you're like a high-level political streamer, and you know, basically, you have the capacity to weigh like the lesser of two evils and what that means, I feel like it's an abdication of responsibility to not make that call.
I mean, I certainly have been critical of people who, generally don't vote for the lesser of two evils. But I think, and certainly, in the run up to the 2016 election, I certainly that was my perspective. But again,
I don't know why he lies about this.
What the Biden administration was doing was so horrific that her inability.
Yes, of course, he's using Sam to try and trash talk me by fucking lying.
I think
I literally have made.
Sometimes you have to take this at face value.
Videos about Jill Stein
I think there would be certainly definitely other things. You would not be assaulting the government.
Why does he lie about this?
Like Trump
it's
is,
such a basic,
but
easy to fucking
I think probably this is the first election in as long as I've been doing this, and I think it's been 5 elections now. I mean, I'm old.
Why does he lie about this?
Really,
I voted on stream.
Condemn someone from taking that position based upon what we were seeing.
It's not just some random person. I do, and I'll tell you what. Kamala Harris wanted a ceasefire. She stated that. Trump said, "Finish them." I mean, let's be honest. For someone like Hassan,
I want a ceasefire.
I'm not voting for Biden. I'm not talking about Biden.
I understand, but we found out that Biden, in fact, did nothing to bring that about. So,
well, you can talk about Biden. I'm talking about Kamala Harris. What she said.
I mean,
well, she's the vice president. I mean, at the end of the day, she doesn't really do that much, right?
No. But I'm talking about the candidate. Biden, as a president, said he wanted a ceasefire. She as a candidate said, "I want a ceasefire."
Well, do you not? Even if you're like, I don't know how much I trust them.
He is not knowledgeable enough to have an adult conversation on this. I'm sorry. It's obvious.
Well, listen, I think it was certainly obvious to me that Trump was going to be worse. But I think like if you're trying to get the candidate to
I'm doing a pee break.
Show some indication of this, I can understand that. I mean, I wouldn't do it. I would disagree with it. But
yeah, and I get your point too. Like ultimately, I understand why people wouldn't want to support them because of what they've seen, and like that, it feels like it feels like
it also shows a tremendous amount of just like electoral malfeasance on her part. I mean, they made an active choice, and I think you could have put that Palestinian lawmaker from Georgia on stage. They made an active choice to signal to whomever they were signaling that they weren't going to do anything. Now, I happen to believe that she would have been better on this than Trump. But they were making an active choice to do that. I mean, it was really electoral malfeasance on her part, in my opinion. But I don't know what the point of litigating this is per se. But
well, we're talking about kind of my criticisms of Hassan and how this.
I don't.
Well, let me show you this.
I don't care.
Yeah,
about,
I know.
Honestly, I'm like
Let me show you this. This is
I'm
more.
Not, I honestly. Like,
yeah, you don't care. I know.
I don't care. I don't.
And why should you? I don't blame you. We talked about anti-Semitism, and you think that I don't want to put words in your mouth, right? But you seem to have conveyed that, compared to the destruction and everything happening, the genocide, the loss of life in Gaza, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, that obviously that's way more important. So let me show you an example of something. And again, I know you don't care about the drama. To me, this isn't drama. This is one of the biggest, most influential streamers. Spreading something that I think is really dangerous, and you can agree or disagree. But it's a short clip, but I'll show it to you. And you tell me what you think.
It's clip chimped. This will never happen, but in a totally just world, any kind of, regardless of your background, any kind of fucking Zionist tendency should be treated in the same way as being a fucking rabid neo-Nazi. And you shouldn't even let someone be the fucking local dog catcher as Felix was posting. Yep. If they've ever exhibited any sort of like positive feelings about the state of Israel. I'm so serious about this.
Now, by the way, he didn't misspeak. He doubled down on it yesterday. He said, no, I agree. That's what I think. Now, just to recap, he says, anyone that's had positive feelings at any point about the state of Israel is a neo-Nazi that's not fit to be a dog walker. Now, to me, that seems like extremely dangerous, dehumanizing language about what could arguably be 70% of the Jewish diaspora, and certainly probably people in your family.
I'll tell you, there's some hyperbole there, but
that's putting it
mildly. I don't want my fucking Zionist family members to be in office either.
And I'll tell you what I think is really.
Sorry, I got to correct you. He says Zionism, and then he says if you had positive feelings about the state of Israel at any point in your life.
I got to tell you, if you look at what's happening right now, and you have positive feelings about Israel.
He said at any point in your life, Sam. Just to be clear, about what he said.
Don't try to fucking.
Would I have said at any point in his life, someone's life? But I just think this is such a petty, like the idea that we're going to police. Hold on, let me respond. You want me to respond to this? I don't. Like I say, I don't care about this. But if you're going to force me to respond to it. What Israel is doing right now is so far beyond the idea that someone says any time in your life or not or whatnot. He's talking about Zionism, and frankly, I think it's very difficult for me to understand how someone could have positive feelings at this time. Now, you want to say in the past and what? Okay.
Yeah.
Like I say, I will grant you at any time in your life that is a. But wait, let me finish.
Yeah.
But see, you go in and you're making this about anti-Semitism by doing this hopscotch about a poll that people had positive feelings that Jewish people do, and then therefore he is anti-Semitic. And honestly, that type of conflation, I think, is so dangerous and so disingenuous. I mean, I don't want to get too passionate about this, but I will tell you something. I have had a guy who went to my bar mitzvah, my sister's bar mitzvah, my kid's bar mitzvah, sat at Passover with me 3 or 4 times, call my father and ask him if I'm anti-Semitic. Now, this is just one that is just an example, an illustration of conflating what he's clearly talking about Zionism. Was it hyperbole to say any time in life, whatever? The fact of the matter is this conflation is dangerous for Jews.
Yes.
It is a fig leaf and a way of weaponizing anti-Semitism
regardless of your background,
that has enabled Donald Trump to do the shit he's doing, that has enabled the slaughter of thousands upon thousands of children and women and men, for that matter. It is not keeping Israelis safe. And this type of conflation, Ethan, is what I find far more irresponsible, frankly, than the idea that he said positive any time.
He's right.
Look, you do a show
Sam,
4 hours a day. He does a show 5, or as far as I can tell, 15 hours a day. And to focus in on that one tiny clause.
This is not one tiny clip, Sam. You don't know. This is a totality of behavior.
But you
and by the way, it's
up.
easy. And I appreciate that you can hand wave it away and say that it doesn't.
No, I'm not hand waving it away.
Well, you kind of are.
I'm saying this.
You're saying it doesn't. You're saying actually I'm wrong.
You know exactly what I mean there.
In fact, I'm saying this conflation is incredibly dangerous.
It
is disingenuous.
I think it's dangerous
now,
to ignore what's being described as dehumanizing violent language for American Jews.
That
have nothing to do with the war.
That is a complete mischaracterization of it.
And that is
it's
what's
not.
dangerous.
He's not fit to be a dog walker.
He never says the word Jews.
He says a neo.
Listen, how many members of Kufi have positive feelings towards Israel?
Let me see.
How many millions of members of Kufi, the Christian organization, have positive feelings for Jews? It is clearly not a function of their Judaism. It is not a function of their Judaism, and so it is not
describes most Jews.
Perhaps these people will not finally understand.
It describes most Christian evangelicals too.
It may do them too, but it also describes 73% of Jews.
So that is not anti-Semitism. That is about
I don't know. What do you
belief.
call it when somebody's discriminating against the vast majority of a racial or religious group, Sam?
I'm sorry. You want to look at evangelical Jews?
I don't care about evangelical people.
Okay, but I'm talking about the way you're constructing this.
I think
you can say the same thing about Christian evangelicals too. It is not anti-Semitism.
I wouldn't be able to have this conversation because Ethan would just be like, you're a Jew hater, you're a Jew hater, you're a Jew hater.
In isolation, which is what we've done here.
Well, you are the one who gave it to me.
Yeah, well,
I don't even want to talk about it,
I disagree
but I'm
with you.
using your example, and in that instance, that is not anti-Semitism.
Well, I disagree.
Conflation. Okay, well, that's our disagreement.
Yeah.
But I think that conflation is incredibly dangerous.
Well, I disagree as well.
For Jews,
I think
it's dangerous for this society.
Why would he?
I think, frankly, I think it's dangerous to what I perceive as hand waving what's happening here. I know you said you aren't doing
I'm
that.
not hand waving.
You're doing the opposite. You're endorsing
decades of thought about this.
So right, sure. But the point is, you're saying that this is not dangerous. How dare you care about this? I think it's dangerous
No, I'm not saying that at all.
I personally, I mean, Jewish
saying
people
the
have a collective memory of trauma,
of it as
Sam, and it starts a certain way. And it
He's
starts
talking
with
about the
people.
Holocaust now.
It starts
To
with
Sam Seder.
dehumanizing language, like saying you're
my
not
God,
fit
he's
to
talking
walk
about-
a
he's
dog.
invoking the
I mean, what are we
Holocaust.
what are we
He's
doing
not
here?
talking
It's
about Jews.
irresponsible
This is
language.
Hasbara.
He's not talking about
He's
Jews.
talking about 73% of Jewish
No,
people.
you said that.
No, that's a poll that's readily available.
No, you made that connection. He did not. Because we have millions upon millions of members of Kufi. We have millions upon millions in this country of evangelicals who also believe the same thing.
Does your dad
and
have?
You cannot say it's
could you
anti-Semitism.
Could you
You
describe
cannot say it's anti-Semitism if you're also including millions upon millions, far more Christians.
If he wants
than
his
Jews.
dad to be appointed to local office, and Sam would say no.
Father, who you mentioned, said something to you that he's ever in his life had positive feelings about the state of Israel.
I've had positive feelings of Israel.
Well, does your dad have any positive feelings about it now?
So.
Not in terms of like I support them, but
I've
like
had
I think
positive
Israel.
feelings. I went to Israel on.
Okay, good. Then you're a neo-Nazi, not fit to walk a dog. How do you feel about that?
No, that's you saying that.
That's
that is
literally
not
what he said. I'll play it again.
No. Thank you.
I think like this will never happen, but in a totally just world, any kind of, regardless of your background, any kind of fucking Zionist tendency should be treated in the same way as being a fucking rabid neo-Nazi. And you shouldn't even let someone be the fucking local dog catcher as Felix was posting if they've ever exhibited any sort of like positive feelings about the state of Israel. I'm so serious about this.
Another thing he's doing, by the way, and Hassan does
That's
this.
listen.
He
you can
plays
say
around with
that's
the
a wrong
term
thing to do.
Zionist, right?
You can say that's a wrong thing to say, but he's not talking about Jews.
Yes.
He's talking about people who have exhibited these positive feelings, and that includes millions upon millions of Christians.
Yes.
More Christians.
Okay, well,
literally say
listen, I don't
regardless of
think
your
the
background.
Nazis not fit to walk dogs, either. I think
Yes,
it's
no
insane
local
language.
office
Listen,
positions.
you don't want to tell me that you have never engaged in hyperbole. You and I both are in this
It's not
business,
just
and
a-
we do that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I just think that,
It's listen. You can
I
say
just
it's an
think that,
inappropriate
like,
thing to say. It's an unfair thing
I
to
just
say.
think like
but
Arabs
it's
that
not
support Israel aren't
anti-Semitism.
fit to walk a dog.
It is not anti-Semitism.
Okay, well, we're
And
at
you
an
can say
impasse
that
on
it's-
this one.
No, the dog walker
Yeah,
is
so, I mean-
a local.
But anyway, another
it's
thing
a
he
fucking
does is he says
colloquialism that
Zionist
Felix
tendencies,
Biederman,
and he's
also
someone that
Jewish,
plays around
used.
with Zionism. He calls me a Zionist, and again, I know we're arguing here about semantics of what Hassan said, but I don't think that you could accurately characterize me as that, as it's used colloquially. You don't know, right? But he's saying Zionist tendencies. What does that mean? What's a Zionist tendency?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to talk
can
to him
ask
on
me about
Friday.
it. I
You can
can tell
ask him
you.
what a Zionist tendency is.
Zionism
I
is
suppose
fascism.
I
That's
would
it.
guess, and like I've looked at polls too, where people have various different understandings
Why
of
is
what
he trying to debate
Zionism
me
is.
on this?
But I
needs to
think
stop
it
bringing
is
Hassan up so much.
my
Ethan is
guess.
trying to
I don't know
absolutely
what
bait
he
a
was
move.
thinking specifically.
Watch
but
Ethan back
the
away from
notion of
our
an
supposed
ethno-state
debate on Friday
that
now
has-
because now
that
he didn't get what he
engages
wanted
and
out of
allows
Sam.
Whatever in the name of,
This was
of
all
Zionism allows
preparation
this mass
to
slaughter.
fucking try and
I think
hit
is
me in the
horrific.
face. He's
Me
not
too.
able to. He's not able to extract. He's
I
not
mean,
able to
then I think
extract what he wanted out of
the three of us
Sam.
agree on that regard.
Yeah, I think we're so. Another thing is like to take it even further. I mean, Hassan pretty much openly
Well, let's
supports
not talk
Hamas.
about Hassan. Let's talk about this.
Sure. I mean,
Let's
what do you
just
want?
talk
What do you want to ask
Well,
me?
I mean, if you want to ask me about, I mean,
I think he's gonna back away now. Now that he's not getting
Well,
what
let
he
me.
wanted.
I'm not here to explore.
Yeah. I have a list of things
feelings,
that.
but if you want to talk about Hamas, I mean, I think look.
Well, how do you feel about Hamas?
I feel that Hamas, people can perceive it as a liberation organization. We
Sounds
call
like,
them
holy shit, this is what
terrorists
Hassan's been
in this
dealing with
country.
2
We
fucking
call the
years.
What do
ANC
you think about
terrorists.
them, Sam?
Listen, I think there are parts, I would imagine,
Oh my
of
God, he's trying to get
Hamas
into condom
that have done
hummus.
good for the people in Gaza, and I think they have done bad things. But I sort of feel, I guess, ultimately probably like Ehud Barak when he said that were I Palestinian and I was living in Gaza, that it would be likely that I would join Hamas. I mean, that's what Ehud Barak said on multiple occasions. And I think that is
It's like
very...
watching someone that
that
has
is
the exact same opinion as I do.
an understanding of human nature.
Saying it from a
That
perspective
you're
of
not
authority.
supporting
He can't
Israelis, by the
fucking
way,
break
just to
out.
point out an inconsistency
Because he
there.
can't fucking hit
How
him
so?
on this.
Well, you're not.
Because
You're like I
he's
refuse to
supposed to
understand
present
human
himself as
nature
someone
and
who
their
respects
reaction.
Sam Seder's
It's just
position.
evil, and I don't know how to explain it.
I didn't use the word evil.
Right. I'm inferring because I asked you if you think they're evil, and you didn't really answer that.
His audience
Listen,
thinks
I
they voted on
don't,
Sam
I
Seder on
don't, I
this.
don't know what Gazans felt on October 8th, but toward Hamas. But I can tell you that we have there is a long history of terrorist organizations or so-called terrorist organizations like the ANC or the IRA, even the PLO,
Now, Sam, I
that
gotta
ultimately become a political organization.
I think the comparison to Hamas to what happened in South Africa is insanely disingenuous, and I personally hate when people do that.
I mean, Mandela didn't think so.
Well, Mandela did think so. He explicitly stated that he avoided committing violence on the citizenry because it would make reunification impossible.
Twice they asked
That's
Nelson
something he
Mandela.
said.
If you disagree,
listen,
In the
twice he said,
by the way,
no,
Sam,
I will
in the
not disavow
totality
violence.
of their
You
campaign,
are wrong. You are
I think
wrong.
under 200 civilians died, and the people who did
You
kill civilians
are
were
wrong.
almost all held accountable for what they did.
Why
That's a
is he
difference,
lying
Sam.
about this?
Well, I mean, I can tell you that
A significant
Twice he
difference.
stayed in prison. His
well,
prison
it
sentence
is
was
a significant
extended.
difference. I mean, I imagine many of those people who committed atrocities on October 7th are dead now, and so
What does that have to do with anything?
Well, that's accountability.
Being killed? Okay. I mean, being held accountable by the party that they're presumably doing the violence on behalf. Like,
but you're saying the entire ANC was held accountable?
No, I was saying Nelson Mandela's party, if someone killed a civilian, they would hold them accountable. They would charge them. They would disavow their actions.
That's not true.
The ANC did.
Yes.
Well, the IRA was bombing places in England and throughout Ireland. I mean, we have even the Irgun or the Stern Gang when they killed, over 100
I would not compare
villagers
Irgun to the IRA, by the way.
In 1948. I mean, the history is full of exammpons of organizations that commit terrorist acts. Now, I will tell you,
people look at South Africa.
I do not condone
Nelson
the
Mandela's
killing
family, by the
of
way.
civilians, and which is why obviously I'm upset about what Israel is doing.
Sure. The part that I don't like about people say, like, I feel like people sweep for Hamas by saying, like, what do you expect,
MK,
right?
paramilitary
But
wing of the
truth
ANC
is that people
bombing campaign that
use
killed 19
South
people,
Africa as an
wounded 200.
example, but what South Africa shows is that you don't need to commit a violent war against civilians to liberate yourself.
They were violent.
Well, I mean, listen, we had for a year, we had the Great March of Return, where Sinwar himself was involved in that. There was Palestinians marching on a regular basis over the course of the year. I don't know how many it was, 50 or whatever, that were innocent people who went there, and snipers are shooting down unarmed civilians. And so, time and time again, and over the course of the 20 years that I've been professionally,
That's the reason why he
covering
went to
this,
prison.
my attitude towards Israel's willingness to have peace has changed, and my understanding of it has changed. And I can only imagine how more intense that feeling is to be living in a place that is, functionally like, the Warsaw Ghetto, insofar as like you don't have access to resources, you have 50% unemployment, the apartheid that is taking place in terms of the West Bank. I mean,
I agree with those characterizations, by the way, Sam. Just to say,
but I can't imagine that my response wouldn't be to pick up a weapon.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know.
It's not really working out.
Well, none of it's working out, is it? I mean,
not much at all. Not really much at all.
What is called the greatest attack on Israelis in 75 years. The notion of Zionism and the way that Israel is organized as a society is not protecting Jews.
Well,
it's not protecting Israelis. It's not protecting Jews worldwide. It is, there may have been a time where Zionism had and there were certainly proponents of Zionism in the early 20th century, in the late, perhaps late 19th century, where there was a notion of a multi-ethnic democracy that fell by the wayside. Folks like Hannah Arendt and Einstein, left the Zionist Congress, and what it has evolved into is, I think, a nightmare for everyone involved. And so, I don't know how I would react in
I love using Einstein as well.
That type of miseration, frankly.
Well, can I ask you?
But again, Ehud Barak said that he would pick up a weapon were he one of them. And
that's fine.
He's far closer to the conflict than I am.
I'm not saying I don't understand why people pick up weapons, right? So let me ask you this. What do you think about October 7th attack?
What do I think about it?
Yeah.
I mean, it was horrific.
And this was like a military action by Hamas to what end?
I mean, I suspect. I mean, I don't know what the strategy was. I mean, they attacked 2 military bases. I don't know if they were aware.
He's gonna hit the rape stuff now, probably.
That the dance.
The Nova rave.
Yeah, I don't know if they knew that rave was happening. I suspect it was to derail the Abraham Accords, which were going to leave the Palestinians out of the equation, where an authoritarian
You leave out that they
state.
attacked kibbutzim, by the way.
No, yes, of course they did. But I'm saying that they, I don't know what the strategy was on their
okay,
part.
so what do you think, like, would you expect the response of Israel would be to that?
I had no doubt on that day that Israel was going to respond.
Go insane.
I mean,
yeah, right? It was going to be horrific. We all knew.
yes, but I think I think the lack of proportionality was just beyond, frankly, and I was aware that this was going to be a horror show, but I don't think I had the level of awareness of what they would do to go in and literally level it, destroy what is it, 80-90% of the structures in Palestine, bomb
I'm gonna show
hospitals
this as well.
that they would use.
Well, Hamas did know that because that's why they attacked.
Food as a weapon.
I'm more interested in like the
I
justification
think Hamas
for what they're doing
probably
there.
took hostages with the idea that they would be able to negotiate.
I understand why they took hostages. I don't understand why they took children and elderly.
I believe that they probably. I mean, this is all conjecture on my part. That they would be able to trade them as a way to inhibit Israel's doing what they're doing, and I don't know if they could have even imagined that. I'm not going I'm not going to endorse Hamas's strategy here.
Well, I'm just trying to flesh it out here because this is what I'm getting to is Hamas. I think they knew that this was the reaction that would happen. You know?
I can't imagine that they
It's an act of desperation,
assumed that this
born
was,
out of
there would be
Israel's
this
endless
level
cruelty.
of destruction.
I mean, that's why they hate Israel. I don't think they
It would have been
underestimate how violent the IDF can be. You know what I mean? That's why they attacked.
I certainly underestimated that they would go this far. Use
I didn't think they'd go this far, but
bomb hospitals.
Okay, so why the fuck are you defending Israel and the Zionist project in any capacity, Ethan?
Have rules of engagement
Hamas
like this.
thought that Israel would have a semblance of humanity for its own hostages. They were wrong. How was that anybody else's fault other than Israel?
Criticism for their strategy here. If
I think that's
what
an
you're trying to
understatement.
Ethan is on Hamas once again.
Well, I mean, they're a terrorist organization antagonized like the IDF to come mass slaughter their civilians.
I think that if they overestimated whether Israel cared about the hostages, without a doubt. I mean, there's.
I'm really disappointed.
I don't know that there would be anybody who would make a case that this
oh my
is what
God,
was
his
their
entire
plan.
community is like full.
Israel responded this way. That's absurd.
Oh
well,
my
and
God.
the same is true of like I guess Israelis feel the same way. Like it was totally unprecedented.
No shot. They're
You know
literally
what
fucking
happened.
going. They're telling Sam.
Maybe they didn't think that their mission would be as successful as it was on the other
Oh,
hand.
I have no doubt that they. Who are you? They did not think that they would that they would have been able to overrun that. I mean, I think we were told that the technology
so much worse than I thought it was
Israel's fence, et cetera, was perfect and something we should emulate in this country. I mean, Trump was all talking about that. So I have no doubt that Hamas underestimated.
Overestimated. Overestimated the IDF. Yeah, I got you.
What they would be able to,
oh my God, is bad.
What kind of destruction
I didn't know
they
it was
would
that
wreak,
bad, bro.
and they underestimated the violence that Israel would perpetrate on Gaza.
This
I don't know that anyone could have imagined that Israel would
someone can be to explain the situation.
This
and these guys are just going crazy. They're treating him like they treat me.
Immiseration and bombing churches and bombing hospitals and blowing up universities and destroying
Sam is hard
the
to listen
infrastructure.
to.
I mean, it's almost beyond belief.
So one thing that when I was talking to Hassan, and I'm just going to talk about his point. This is about him personally. When I asked him, because this is obviously the $1 million question, right? By the way, just there's not one public bomb shelter in Gaza.
You think that's a good
There's
point?
not one public bomb shelter in Gaza.
Oh no, he's doing hospital points. Oh,
Okay.
Sam's gonna
I just
cook
think
him.
that's interesting. It's pretty fucked up.
What would
don't
a
you think?
3,000-pound bomb do to a bomb shelter?
Do I think it's fucked up?
Do you think Israel would stop themselves from blowing up a bomb shelter?
I'm not sure I understand the point. Like,
Well, I mean,
do you think anything would be standing anymore?
Well, bomb shelters are underground. I mean, they would definitely be a lot safer.
Dude, they have 2,000. They have bunker busters. They've used bunker busters on fucking refugee camps. They've used bunker busters on hospitals. Why the fuck would they stop themselves from using it on a fucking bomb shelter?
First one that they went into, they built it when they were occupying Gaza.
Are you right? That's true of that one. But I mean, they have a vast tunnel network, obviously, as everybody knows. But I don't care. I don't want to get into the weeds on this. The $1 million question is like, what can we do? Now it's obviously insanely difficult to say.
I think we can stop aid immediately. I mean, obviously it's not going to happen under Trump.
I'm in favor of that. By the way,
don't move on. Don't move on. Oh my God.
Okay. I mean, good.
I mean, I think
we should call for all aid to be ceased. And I think we should stop protecting them in the
What
UN.
should have Israel done on October 8th, I guess? Like, what would have been an appropriate response for their government?
Not kill Israeli citizens within the Gaza envelope in a hope that Hamas could not hold them kidnapped.
On October 8th, I mean, I think that there is...
Concede to the positions of Hamas.
They're hitting strategic sites to attempt to take out leadership. They should have... But let's talk,
well, the leadership was underground.
Yeah, to look at that, that moment in history,
genocide,
like maybe it was.
I disagree because they had to do something.
Maybe in that moment,
why are there?
They had to go in and bomb or whatever they do. I think that any action that they would have taken at that point, frankly, was a function of literally decades of oppressing people and attempting to bring this to an eventuality.
Right.
I mean, this was.
I can't believe.
And so, what should they have done?
I can't believe his audience legitimately and Ethan thought that Sam would agree with.
Okay, I think what they should have done is empowering
anyone who's knowledgeable on this issue that isn't fucking brain broken from Zionism is 100% going to have these exact same opinions. What the fuck?
They should disband their government and lift the borders in response to the worst terrorist attack that's ever happened.
I think honestly, when you see that your policies have failed, but I don't think
you actually don't believe that that's a real thing, though. I'm interested in having like a real conversation. You can't like live in a fairy tale land where, in response to the worst military or terrorist attack of all time, Israel, who's already, as you state, like genocidal and racist and all these terrible things, is going to lift their borders and disband their government.
Well, wait a second. You're asking me what they should have done, and that's different.
No, in a realistic way, not in a fairy
tale,
Sam.
Well, listen, there is no realistic thing. Their agenda has been quite clear. Their agenda has been, since Ariel Sharon walked on the Temple Mount and tried to scuttle peace talks, the agenda since the assassination of Rabin by arch Zionists in Israel, the agenda has been to bring about this moment. There is no doubt about it. The annihilation of the Palestinian people has been an agenda in Israel for far too long. So from the perspective, it's anything I say is fantastical relative to what they would actually do. Anything.
There's nothing they could have done that because of the situation, anything
I'm
they would have done would have been.
There was no plan that on this day they were going to do Bibi Netanyahu. The idea
logical conclusion of Ethan's argument.
What, in terms of like attacking Gaza or inciting an attack?
I would imagine both, frankly. But to find a way to eliminate the Palestinians, this has been the agenda of at one time what I think was a smaller segment of the Israeli, body politic, and I think has increasingly become an even larger portion of the Israeli politic. So, I mean, anything I say in terms of should is fantastical. Anything.
So okay. I mean, so this is like I understand where you're coming from, right? Like
there was an opportunity for a ceasefire that was called in November, in December. They could have held a ceasefire at any point, and the amount of killing would have been far less. They could have done that. They could have ended it after a week.
I mean, Hamas could have ended the war anytime too.
How could have Hamas ended the war?
By releasing the hostages?
Listen, Israel has said time and time again that release of the hostages is not going to end their assault on Gaza. They have said this over
I don't believe
and
that's
over. And
I haven't seen those
that?
statements.
You don't
I've seen the
believe
opposite.
facts?
I believe
because
that
you're
if
delusional.
really, you really haven't seen those
Well,
statements?
No, I haven't. I'll review
They
them.
just
I mean,
released
it
the
depends
statement
when
last week. They
it
said
depends
we
when
won't.
they were made
Why
too,
are
right?
there
Like, is
fucking
it
hostages, Israel, Ethan? It's because the Netanyahu government doesn't want to release the hostages because they want to keep using the hostages as a reason to keep bombing Gaza because they want to ethnically cleanse the Gaza population. They want to ethnically cleanse the fucking Gaza Strip.
Not coming into Gaza.
Why are
I
you
mean,
so
there's
stupid?
just-
You don't understand
to
anything.
That's not
defend
true.
Israel's actions
That didn't happen
as
either.
being inevitable.
Oh my God.
Like, when do you think they should have ended it? When do you think they should have ended it?
So when should who have ended what?
You've asked me the question, what should have Israel done? You
Yeah.
tell me what they should have done. Do you think what they've done is right?
Well, what do you? I've clearly stated no, Sam.
Okay, so tell me what they should have done.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, hindsight is a
Him right
beautiful
now, by the
thing,
way?
but
Oh, dude.
in my opinion, like you said, I think some more specific strikes. I think more moving slowly because, as you kind of
just a slower
pointed out,
genocide.
but didn't really acknowledge.
When
is
do you
that
think they should have
Do
ended?
you want me to answer?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the leadership is obviously underground. So it's going to take. It's going to be a long mission of trying to get them. It's going to be a difficult mission. But I think militarily, they probably have some obligation to their citizenry, at the very least, to like take out where there's. But we're ignoring the fact that missiles are being shot into Israel nonstop. And I know you're going to say, Iron Dome stops most of them, which is true. But at the same time, I mean, a country needs to respond to that. They can't just allow missiles to be
clear
shot
to
in.
me. Tell me the non-fantastical version of what they should have done. Should it have been 2 weeks, 3 weeks? How many Hamas leaders, how many members of Hamas should they have killed before they leave? Because we know that Blinken said on his way out that virtually every Hamas member of Hamas that they've killed has probably been replaced by someone who's lost a family member or an entire family or whatnot. So you tell me, Ethan, if you're the one with the sensical perspective on this, and mine is fantastical, what should they have done that would have been appropriate in your mind?
Yeah. So besides like special operations and stuff, I think it would have been a good idea to, I think there's a space where they could like try to find peace partners in Gaza before just destroying the whole thing. Like obviously they approached it completely wrong, right? But there are ways I think that could have happened that are realistic, like trying to forge some kind of
the
peace
principal
partner, some kind of
negotiator
alliance,
who had never
some
actually
kind of
held a fucking
international
weapon.
coalition.
They killed him in Tehran. This is ridiculous.
They were marching in the Great March of Return week after week after week.
Sam, was there
after
Hamas
week.
activity at the Great
Sinwar
March?
was marching with them.
Were people attacking the border wall?
During the Great March of Return, the first dozens of these things before the snipers, no, they weren't. So there were the people for peace.
Hamas activity at the Great
There
March
was
of Return.
Hamas activity. They were attacking the fence. They were like trying to cross the border.
They were
But not
attacking
militants.
My
Militants
God.
were trying to cross the border.
That's not true.
You're telling me that in the first dozen of these
Ethan
marches,
is
there were
now
people attacking the
functionally
fence?
defending
Correct.
sniping like paramedics at the Great March of Return, for the record. That's what he is
Yeah.
de facto
But I mean,
defending.
again,
Sniper rifles.
I think that there's a way for Israel to try. I think they can obviously pursue peace. The way
Please
that they're
don't
doing
go
it is
there.
impossible, right? Like it's fucked up. It's insane. It's genocidal. It's horrific.
They're not pursuing peace.
I'm not saying.
They're not
I'm saying the
pursuing peace.
opposite,
I don't
Sam.
think Israel is
Well, you
pursuing
asked me
peace.
what should they have done. I mean, obviously
Yes.
they're not. They're not pursuing peace. I agree with you. Like quite the opposite. That's not what they're doing. But I'm saying there could have been a path, although it's not. It's. I think, unfortunately, I think their response was inevitable based on everything that happened.
You think it was inevitable that they would kill these many people and they would use food supplies as a weapon, that they would have leveled hospitals and universities and 80-90% of the homes? I mean, how
I don't know to what extent, but like a huge response was definitely inevitable. I'm not justifying it, Sam. You asked me a question. I'm answering it. You're putting this on me like I'm saying.
No. I'm just saying inevitability. I wonder
right here.
what you must think of an Israeli body
Sam had
politic
all the history and
where
context
this
of
level
Ethan's
of
points.
atrocity is inevitable.
Well, you described your and Hamas's understanding of the IDF. I wouldn't say that.
Sam is a
I can't say to
self-hating
what
Jew?
extent,
What the
but you
fuck?
agree that a huge response was inevitable.
I listen. I believe a response that was inevitable by Israel, and that is because I have a much more theoretically jaded view of that country and their agenda, I think, than you. But like to expect that what they've done is inevitable.
So
you
what?
can't
Well, Sam,
think,
I'm
I mean,
saying,
I just wonder like what it is that you think is in that body politic. Like, listen, like I don't think it's inevitable. Just to use an example in this country. I don't think that it's inevitable that we are going to be deporting and disappearing, immigrants in this country. I think it's possible, but my perspective on America is still too optimistic to think that's inevitable.
Yeah, of course there's crazy takes in here. Like you, chum guzzler. You came in here. It's not
inevitable.
locked.
And I think
all you need to do is follow for 10 minutes. His chat is all fucking paid members and subscribers. Don't you think that there's a major difference there? I don't safeguard myself from the opinions of people like you. Okay? Yeah, no shit.
Certainly, I was exposing them more than the American population writ large.
Edith's chat is members only.
To perceive what we did in Iraq as inevitable.
It's a different situation. That's completely, I mean, that was completely unpredictable. But we kind of touched on it. Where Hamas, and again, to what end this even matters is it doesn't ultimately. But Hamas knew that they were going to bomb the fuck out of Gaza.
Listen, I would imagine Hamas thought there was going to be a response, but they wouldn't have taken hostages if they thought that they couldn't use those hostages.
Of course, they thought they could. I don't deny that. Yeah.
Of deterring Israel from entering, and that was a miscalculation on their part. They presumed that Israel was more interested in those hostages, I think, than they had assumed.
Well, and that's part of what a lot of the civil unrest in Israel is about, is that a lot of people do care about the hostages and think that the government is to stop the war and focus on getting the hostages back and not killing innocent civilians. So that
I wonder about that last
Sam
part.
Seder, what a fucking nightmare, but with Ethan saying
which part?
The part about the killing of innocent civilians. I mean, I think that
I said that's what they're doing.
No. I'm saying I wonder if the Israeli body politic.
Oh, you think the Israelis want civilians to die?
I think the Israelis. I mean, obviously not all Israelis, but I think that
there are definitely a lot of Israelis that do want the Israeli civilians to die, and certainly the Gazan civilians to die as well.
To maintain this government,
yes,
believe
that's what the polls say. Ethan loves his polls when he's talking about Zionism.
That their lives have no value. That they are all future enemies, that they all represent the threat to Israel. And I think that's...
Oh, yes, Sam, speak for everyone.
I mean, I think that's...
They're so mad at Sam Seder. They literally...
A twisted perspective.
Before this conversation took place, I need you to understand, their subreddit was talking about how Ethan should Sam Seder me, because they thought that Ethan and Sam Seder would be in agreement with one another.
People in a
and now
country
they're
that's
fucking calling him
relatively
a
small.
self-hating Jew
So
and
I
shit.
think characterizing like the majority of the
audacity.
public as wanting to kill civilians is a little sick, personally. But
I feel Ethan is far less extremist than
I mean, I'm basing this on conversations with
you feel that way because he was trying to present himself in this conversation as someone who is actually pro-Palestinian in an effort to use that agreement with Sam against me on Friday. And even then, it unfolded pretty quickly when he got a little bit of pushback, not realizing that Sam has Sam has opinions almost identical to mine on this issue, because that's what every fucking well-read person on this matter would think if they have a fucking humanity.
Certainly, they want hostages, and again, not all Israelis. But look, I can make analogous assessments of the United States at various times about things that reflect poorly on our national body politic as well. But the proof is in the pudding.
Can I tell you something? 300,000 protesters in Tel Aviv, 200,000 in the rest of the country. That's 500,000 people out in the street protesting the government of a country that has like 6 million or 5 million in the.
Are you talking about the protests about the judiciary?
I'm talking about the.
That's what he's talking about. Those weren't
to release the hostages.
No, the hostage protests weren't that
hostages.
Yeah.
But even, I don't think the hostage protests were that big, but it doesn't matter. It was pretty large. But those people literally still turned around and, according to the polls, said they want the violence to continue in Gaza. They just want to stop it for now.
Or they were calling for a release of the hostages.
Well, what's the point of telling Hamas to release the hostages? Yeah, of course it's a ceasefire, Sam.
Well, but Israel has to, and I know I'll look this up.
Deal with this.
I don't have much
500,000
time.
Israel.
Wait. Let's look this up and see how many times the Israeli government has said return of the hostages will not end.
Sam, I'm responding to you saying the majority of Israelis want civilians to die. 500,000 people came to the street for a ceasefire of a country of 5 million, Sam. That's 10%.
Israel just broke the latest ceasefire. Okay, where is the political response from the Israeli people? I mean, the idea
is this Israelis
that
or Israeli
Gazans
Jews?
can be held responsible for an election that happened 18 years ago.
Sam, you said the majority of Israelis want civilians to die.
I think the majority of Israelis do not have a problem with what's going on in Gaza. That is my
I think that unfortunately might be true to the extent that they've gotten they've gotten much more radical. Unfortunately, tragically, everybody's been a lot more radicalized since October 7th. And that's tragic. I agree. I think people in Israel are jaded and they're cynical and they don't care, like you said, and I think it's tragic.
Yes. Well, that's what my contention was. I mean, I'm looking at something from May.
Ethan? I wouldn't say most of them want to kill civilians, though.
Well, I think that they don't.
And I wouldn't say that there isn't a sizable portion of Israeli citizenry that want a ceasefire. When 500,000 people, Sam,
dude, Ethan should talk to an Israeli anti-Zionist. It will probably melt him. Okay. Ethan
this
should
Pew
talk to
research,
like a Messervolt guy or Dr. Ofer Kasif. He will literally melt on the spot.
34%.
He should ask an Israeli anti-Zionist, an Israeli Jew who's an anti-Zionist, what their take is on Israeli society, because they say some fucking way worse shit about their own country.
But you know, that's all the most
it's horrible.
Or maybe he should talk to a therapist. Honestly, I don't know why he's doing all this.
Because
40% last year said that Israelis should govern the Gaza Strip.
I know that people.
I don't know what's left now.
Yeah, I agree. It's tragic what's happened, because I agree with you that they've become jaded and they've become very comfortable with the idea of violence happening there in general, right? And I think it sucks. I think it sucks is an understatement. I think it's tragic, and like I don't know what. Truthfully, the situation is so fucked up that
it's just really fucked up.
It just feels hopeless sometimes. But
it certainly does. But in the meantime, you know, in this country, and we may not have the opportunity for a while, but we should cease all to Israel. We should stop protecting them in the UN. We should stop trying to pressure the ICJ and the ICC, and that's, you know.
Well, incidentally, I agree with all those things too. I think that's the most we can do as a country to try to stop the war.
What do you disagree with
it's
me
something
on, Ethan?
that we should be doing.
I mean, there are some significant disagreements,
and,
even that you brought up.
I think
in
Kamala
this
Harris would have been a
conversation.
lot more likely to do something on that front. But you know, certain
we won't know.
We can't know, and that's the great thing.
Well, listen, I appreciate the time. I gotta go because I'm supposed to have dinner for my child. But,
well, I'll say this: this was way more combative than I expected. Ultimately, though, I don't think that we. What do we disagree on? I mean, I don't know. I don't even know. Maybe I see too much good in the Israeli population. I mean, I don't know what's ultimately the disagreements
He's
here.
trying to farm it. See?
Well, I mean, look, I'm not. It's largely, in my mind, you know, impossible to really fully assess. I mean, yes, there was a protest last year, 500,000 people who wanted the hostages back. And,
I thought you would agree on everything.
Well, they wanted the hostages back. You know, I don't know.
It's not a magic wand. It's a ceasefire.
Yeah, and they got a ceasefire, and then the Israeli government broke it, and they.
Well, so hold on. Our disagreements is that I'm too optimistic about the Israeli citizenry.
No.
I'm not here to adjudicate what.
I'm just trying to summarize our conversation. That's all.
No,
Well,
he's
I
just
mean,
trying to get a
you
clip.
summarize for you. I'll summarize for me. I think that, like, it is what it is. And I think I don't remember this conversation. We can put into AI and have it summarize it, but I'll
do that for you, and I'll let you know what it says.
All right,
Okay, we'll leave it to the robots.
Okay.
Sam, I do appreciate you calling in. I do value your input on all this, and I appreciate the conversation. I think it's good to have conversations like this, like open and honest, even if they're combative. And I think ultimately on the larger points we agree, but we managed to find things to fight about anyway, and that's what two Jews do, isn't it, Sam?
That happens. That's my understanding. Appreciate it. All right, take it easy, man.
Have a great time with your children at dinner there. Enjoy.
Ooh. I mean, I'll have the convo now if he wants to. By the way, I'll talk to Ethan right now if he wants to. Oh, he said.
But okay.
He said that was way different than what I thought it was going to be.
I enjoyed that as a watcher.
Was I owned?
I don't think you were owned. I don't think anybody was owned. I think it was two people that are highly opinionated hashing it out. And I personally like when people do that.
Yeah,
I don't get turned off by the
they're
combative.
doing. Thank God we're having this
Maybe
open, free discourse.
That's the half Jewish part of me.
But the truthfully is, like, again, on the larger points we agree. That's why I take cross with this issue of being like, he's a genocide supporter, he's a fucking baby killer, and all this insane. He goes, Sam, you never heard of hyperbole? Yeah, I've heard of hyperbole. It's fuck. You're
the king of hyperbole.
Yeah. So I mean, like, is my downfall that I have too much faith or I have too much optimism in the Israeli
He has too much
citizenry?
optimism for Israel. That's his downfall. It's because he's too kind, dude.
Differing the most.
That was his downfall. He's too hopeful for a better tomorrow.
And I mean, Sam is older, and he's in his 50s or something, and so maybe he's just more jaded.
Dan,
yeah, he
stop,
is more jaded.
Dan, have some
There's no
fucking
question about that.
decency,
and rightfully
Dan.
so, right?
Listen, dude, he needs you more than you need him. Just be honest.
Jewish person.
He needs you more than you need him. You can be honest. Please be honest for the sake of Ethan. If you want to actually save your friend and your boss, be honest in this moment instead of fucking constantly
when trying to
feeding into his narcissism.
To avoid
oh my
criticizing
God.
Hassan, which is fine. I understand he doesn't want to get into that game, right?
This makes me so sad because Dan was a fucking I thought he was like a radical guy. I thought
obviously I greatly disagree with him, and I think it's kind of
someone that Ethan trusts.
It's funny how he talks about how
real
dangerous
conversation
it is
with
for me
him.
to call out anti-Semitism or how ridiculous it is for me to weaponize it like that. It's like when at the same time,
it's a weird thing because you don't really want to like. I understand the impulse to just want to have a conversation with Sam and keep it with like the here and now of your beliefs and everything. But, the degree to which the harassment that you and Hila have experienced over the last couple of years, like, it is part of the story. And, like,
yeah, it's true.
I don't know. It's tricky because, like, I get the impulse to, like, not want to get into it. But, like, that is a component of all of this. That
well, and unfortunately, whatever Sam's been peppered with before the debate I've seen is his co-host telling him that I'm obsessed with Hassan, that I'm having a mental
Yeah, you really
health
showed that
break,
you're not
that
obsessed
I'm
by
a
fucking
genocidal maniac,
showing clip chimps of me to him
that's kind of
to be
without
like,
having
you
any of
should
the
disagree
backstory,
with
that's
it,
the flavor
putting
he's
words in
coming
my
with.
mouth.
But ultimately, I don't want to speak ill of Sam, right? I appreciate him coming and having an honest conversation with me. I was also disappointed by his response to that specific line of questioning, Zach. I share that.
He's trying to win the debate instead of having a rational conversation with another human being.
He was hand-waving away anti-Semitism as like, it doesn't matter that people are discriminating against Jewish people in America because of what's happening in Gaza.
The fandom
and it's
is starting to see it.
First of all,
and I'm
two
glad
different issues, kind of.
whatever's happening in Gaza is one thing, and whatever rise into anti-Semitism we're seeing in America is a whole different fucking thing.
Yeah, it's connected to one another, though. It's connected to one another because of that dangerous conflation that Sam Seder tried to explain to you, Ethan.
Obviously,
the
one has
dangerous
an
conflation
immediate,
between Judaism,
horrible
Jews,
effect
and Zionism.
on
That is
in
precisely
Gaza
the reason why
right
anti-Semitism
now.
is
And
skyrocketing in
the
this
threat
fucking
of
country,
anti-Semitism
as it always
is
does
an
whenever Israel does
amorphous,
sieges.
nebulous
That is
thing
why
that's, like,
attacking people
hard
like
to measure
myself,
and hard
who
to
actually
say, and
cut that
a
dangerous
Jews
conflation
whole life in
and
America,
never
people
even
call
give an
people
inch
the
to that dangerous conflation should not be your enemy. It should be people that actually consistently say Zionism and Judaism are actually directly associated with one another. It is people like yourself, Ethan, that participate in this dangerous conflation, that feed into the anti-Semitic tendencies of people.
Anti-Semitism, what isn't, and when you're
There's never been a moment where I've considered anti-Semitism to be even remotely permissible. I have fought against anti-Semitism my whole fucking career. I've been doxxed, swatted, and attacked and harassed by the same fucking neo-Nazis that you seemingly find yourself comfortably aligned with now, Ethan. What the fuck? What the fuck are you saying? Little old Israel over here. Oh no.
I didn't see it that way, but I'm not Jewish, so I found it interesting that you guys are having this conversation to give both perspectives. One thing I kind of wish is that you guys both could have defined
what these are
Zionism
the freaks.
is.
Those are the fucking freaks.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's
these are the fucking rabid freaks that come in here and say some
I agree, and it's such a stupid
shit.
word. Because it has such a broad meaning. And like when,
not only do
when
they get
Hassan
banned
says
instantly,
Zionist
but they
tendencies,
get banned off the
that's
fucking
why I think it's
platform for
important to
doing
ask
fuck
Sam,
shit like this.
who I think is
This
avoiding
not
the
an
question,
opinion
frankly,
that
because he knows that
this
it
is
looks
not an
bad. He
opinion that
doesn't want to
anyone in
answer.
this community
So
would
he
ever
responds by
fucking
saying,
abide by,
like,
even for
oh,
an
you
inch,
think this
even for a
matters? Let's
second.
not talk about the specifics of what Zionist tendency is.
Scumbags.
Because clearly Hassan's not anti-Semitic. Obviously, he doesn't have the
You've called me a
context. And by the
vile
way,
anti-Semite for a year.
I'm still willing to give Hassan the benefit of the doubt that he's not anti-Semitic, right?
What are you talking about?
Once again, as I've stated,
You are?
Yeah, I'm willing to.
Even Dan
I'm
is
willing
laughing
to,
because
but at
he's
the
called me a vile,
what I've said
rabid
previously
anti-Semite
is
for a
that,
year now. So gracious.
He's
You know
very
I'm not an
comfortable
anti-Semite.
fostering a community that is blatantly hateful and anti-Semitic. He's comfortable, expressing these ideas irresponsibly the way he communicates, which is what that clip displays, I think.
Oh my
So
God.
while I don't think he's anti-Semitic, I think he's responsible
You're
for
irresponsible.
perpetuating a lot of it.
You're irresponsible with the ways in which you have defended Israel's actions by presenting it as like Hamas instigating this genocide. That is not only irresponsible, that is morally repugnant.
Because frankly,
we know what he
there's
means
really
with
nothing
Zionist tendency.
positive
What
to
do you
say
mean?
about what he did.
Zionism is
and so Sam
fascism.
took the I guess
Any
if you
tendency
want to talk
towards
about
Zionism
debate, and
is
Sam's a great
exactly the
debater,
same as
right?
a tendency towards fascism. That is what I believe.
Everybody knows that. He's a great conversationalist. He doesn't really get the best stuff. Nobody really gets the best of him in conversation.
Why is Ethan in
I mean, the
Breaking
only
Bad
way
right now?
he
He'd
could
just
really
rather
take that
stay
on was to be
silent?
like, it doesn't matter, in the totality of things. So that's the road he took, and
Hassan
I
is
was
fuming so
disappointed by
hard right
that
now.
as well.
Yeah, of course I'm fuming. I'm fuming
But
because
at the end of
my
the day,
fucking former podcast
I knew
co-host
it was
has
unlikely
slandered me
that
for a
he was going
goddamn
to say
year,
a
trying to
bad
get me
thing about
deplatformed.
Hassan. I
Got my
was
friends
specifically trying
deplatformed.
not to
Got
even go there.
pro-Palestinian voices
In fact, when I showed him
deplatformed
that
at a
first
time
video of
when
me
the
talking
American
about
fascist government is literally actively trying to revoke the First Amendment rights of all Americans inevitably by using Israel as a talking point, by using Israel as a way to enter the conversation, by using Israel to enter the precedent into the Constitution to completely erode people's First Amendment rights. This will not just harm people like myself. It will harm you as well in the end. This is my argument.
So here's what I'll say about Israel.
Now he's just like talking about how now he's just going to rewatch like how pro-Palestine he is to this audience that's watching. Of course I'm going to fucking fume. The reason why I'm fuming is because he is doing Hasbara. The reason why I'm fuming is because even in his he tried to use this as an opportunity, thinking that he was going to actually agree with Sam Seder, that Sam Seder was going to be like, oh, wow, it seems like you're super pro-Palestine. Why are people calling you anti-Palestine? It seems like you might be getting attacked by anti-Semites. That's what he thought was going to happen, so we could use that clip on fucking Friday. That was his big smoking gun, okay? I assumed that was his big smoking gun, or maybe he was going to try to bring Dan Saltman on or Destiny on in the hopes that I get banned, which I will, by the way. If Dan Saltman or Destiny appears on Friday when we have this conversation, if Ethan is still willing and able to do it, I will get banned. He knows that, which is precisely the reason why I assume he will try to bring them forward, just as I called this initially, just as I called what was going to take place in this conversation initially. I'm telling you right now, if he tries to, oh my God, Sam Seder me, what a fucking nightmare, with like a person that has been banned, I won't be able to have this conversation with him. I will have to exit out of this conversation because Twitch will absolutely ban me. I know for a fucking fact. Okay. So no, I already have. I've already talked to my Twitch rep. I did. Shut the fuck up. I did already. I know. They said, no, you will get banned. Do you understand? So for that reason, if he tries some fuck shit like that, I assume this was a two-parter. Okay. This was a two-parter. I suspect that he was initially going to try to get any clip that shows Sam Seder agreeing with him to be like, see, your ordained designated Jew agrees with me, or something along those lines, and then be like, why do you call me pro-Israel? Okay, that's what he thought he was going to be able to get. It didn't happen. So now I assume his second smoking gun is to probably bring up like Destiny or Dan Saltman in it, with the hopes that I get banned. Because if I don't back out of that conversation, I get banned. If I back out of that conversation when that happens, he will go, oh, you ran away from Destiny. You're so scared. You're just like Steven Crowder. And that's the problem. Okay? He is going to try to present it. I'm telling you right now, if he tries to do some shit like that, that means he doesn't want to have a real conversation with me on this issue. That he's going to try to pull some shtick because he knows that he can't have this real conversation with me. Okay? Just like he thought that Sam Seder would agree with him, and then he realized that even in the most charitable pro-Palestine approach that he tried to present himself as, Sam was able to, without knowing anything else, Sam was able to recognize that no, there is a lot of defense for Israel here that is unconscionable, especially when we're comparing it to 16 months of endless bombing, child murder. He saw through Ethan.
I think that's part
and he
of
didn't
what
get what he
really
wanted
jaded
across.
the
So now
Israeli
I think he's
public
going to be
too. It's
petty
like,
and try to get me banned.
Look
or
what happens
in an
when
effort
you
for
wanna
myself to
support
preserve
peace,
myself in this
Obviously,
situation,
that's-
and I back away. I click out
obviously
when
that's
he
not-
does the
I don't
Destiny
think the
thing.
right conclusion,
Then
but
he's
was
going
their
to say, "Oh, you
conclusion.
ran
It's like, all
away."
people that wanted peace were murdered by Hamas.
See, like I have, friends or family even that will say that they don't believe there's an innocent Israeli, and I think obviously stuff like that is super dangerous, and
I agree.
I'll never
Thank
agree
you.
with that. But in terms of the Pew research is often what's referenced, and again, Sam brought that up that there was only 19% of people.
Can't you do it
in May.
offline? Are you fucking insane? You think I would let Ethan control the narrative and manipulate the footage by doing it offline? No, of course I'm going to fucking stream my side. Why would I do that? What are you guys talking about? No, dual streaming to YouTube is not the same, okay? And I can't get permission from the CEO. Contrary to what people think, Dan does not fucking listen to my demands, okay? That's not a thing. They've already explained that I will get banned.
Do they want to end the war? I think this is. I mean, yeah, it's disturbing. You know what I mean? But
yeah, he said Hamas
Let me
could have
see
ended
what
the
this
war
says.
if they released the
Israelis are
hostages.
divided
Hamas did
over the country's
offer to
military
release all
response.
hostages.
Sent
Hamas
who
says
say
it will release
Israel's
all civilian
military response
hostages
against Hamas
if
in Gaza
IDF
has
stops
gone too
strikes.
far.
That was on October 17,
about right.
2023. This is from the
gone
Jerusalem
far
Post,
enough,
by
which
the
is
way.
crazy, right?
So
That's
understand, when he says all of these things about Israel, he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. He's just not knowledgeable on this. This is the unfortunate reality, okay? In the most charitable estimation of the past year, if I'm making the most charitable assessment that is like literally impossibly charitable here, he simply doesn't know what he's talking about, and he has people in his ear that's constantly fucking feeding him wrong information, and he's just regurgitating that because it pairs perfectly with his narcissistic tendencies. Ethan Klein has been a victim of anti-Semitic smears and anti-Semitic attacks his entire career. This is not something that I would ever. This is not something that is in dispute. Okay, this is something that I know. This is something that I've brought up over and over again. Now he thinks the real anti-Semitic shit that he has received is now paired up with people who are anti-Zionist within his own community, and he can't let that go. He thinks all of this is a direct consequence of people saying that he's a Zionist because he's a Jew. Oh, I've said the right things. Why do you still get mad at me? I've said the right things. Why do you still get mad at me? I'm simply making a joke about Aaron Bushnell. I've said the right things. Why are you still getting mad at me? Why are you leaving my community? It must be because some guy is out there feeding information and radicalizing this audience, radicalizing my audience. It must be Hassan. And it's really interesting that he said this He's inferred this, he's implied this over and over again. And for the first year after our podcast ended, up until October of last year, October of 2024, up until October of 2024, I consistently defended Ethan up until he started going after actively and getting and successfully deplatforming pro-Palestinian advocates. I did not say a single thing. I defended him because I didn't know. I thought his initial October 7 response was sufficient. I thought he probably has a little bit of liberal Zionism in him, okay? But he is amenable. He is someone who has a heart. He is open-minded. He is open-minded to someone like myself who I believe he trusts. And I was wrong. He was not open-minded to this position at all. I thought I could move him from having like a squishy liberal Zionist position to basically someone who was a anti-Zionist. You know, Hassan, just show up Friday, bro.
That both are important. And
Hassan's
obviously,
going to show.
again,
Of course,
the
I'm going to
totality
show.
of what's happening in Gaza is not in dispute about
Hassan
which
is
is
not
like
coming
more.
Friday. What do you mean?
But I do think that it's important, and I care about Israel, and I care about Israelis. You know, that's it. And so I choose to see the good, and to see the optimistic, and like obviously I have no effect over what the public thinks about the war. I'm not fucking living there. I'm not. When I was living there, I voted against Netanyahu.
Please don't try to bring a banned person.
And by the way, Netanyahu lost the popular vote. He only won because he made a coalition with some psychopath.
Hassan is a fake. Hassan, stop telling your chat we fuck with Destiny. Please don't try to bring a banned person on.
When I voted, won the popular vote.
I will
because
get
of the
banned.
parliamentary system where you make coalitions to get over 50%.
We'll have to leave the conversation.
They were unable to secure the victory.
I think Netanyahu may be the devil. Like, honestly, even his voice, I think he may be the fucking devil.
Why the fuck am I a
He's just
paid member,
passing
by the
out
way? How does this work?
beepers to
Did they give
everyone.
me
He
like a
gave
lifetime
gold
paid
beepers
membership?
to
Dude, that's so fucked
He gave
up.
one to a senator. And
I think that's so
or a congressman. I forget who it was. He's like, yo,
it was John Fetterman.
Yeah, he's like, yo, that was dope when you guys did that. I have a family friend whose son had a beeper go through his stomach, like. And it's just fucking crazy. The president's like taking a picture with.
I didn't even bring up
don't think
I said a banned
just like
person. Dan Saltman is also a fucking banned person.
It's just fucking bad and terrible.
Looking for the anti-Semitism in this community. Anyway.
Those beepers was like nauseating. Like, what are you doing?
Look at this. Look at these fucking freaks. Was on party with a Diddy at a brothel. What the fuck is this statement, dude? These people are brain broken.
Yeah, he is. You're right. He is. But ultimately, I think that's ultimately
How
where.
about Boner Box? I mean, I don't care about that. He's not banned, so who gives a shit? I assume he will. I don't think he's gonna have this conversation with me directly. Okay, I don't think he's gonna have this conversation with me directly. I think he's gonna try and desperately bring someone else on to either get me banned, or to have this conversation in his stead, because he knows that this conversation will not be this conversation will not go in his direction, will not go the way he wants it to. Every time they claim there's anti-Semitism in this community, they're always conflating it with and referencing anti-Zionism. I know.
Hassan is pathetically typing in our chat again.
Wait, what do you mean?
I can talk now or Friday. I don't care. Up to you. Please don't try to bring a banned bro, don't worry. I'm not doing that. You're afraid I'm going to bring on Destiny? That's stupid. I'm not going to do that.
Stop.
I promise you, Hassan.
It's not just Destiny. It's
I will
Dan
not bring on
Saltman as well.
Destiny.
He's
In
also
fact, the people
banned.
here will not allow me to bring on Destiny. I'm
no
interested,
Dan
Hassan, in
Saltman
being
either.
honest.
And it's not because
You know,
I'm
I'm gonna
afraid of
take
them.
that-
I can't. I will get banned. I need people to understand. This is because I will get banned. If he brings on Sam Hyde or Dan Saltman or Destiny, I will get banned instantly. Okay? And I didn't even name Destiny in that. The reason why I said don't bring a banned person on was because I don't want him to bring any banned person on and do some fuck shit to try to get me banned. Okay?
Wait, and this is why I prefaced what I was saying was I'm not an expert. Finding polling, I was wrong saying that support for a two-state solution was at a high. It looks like it kind of plateaued around 55% throughout the 2010s, but it was at a high in 2010 of 71% of Israelis supported a two-state solution. It looks like that number is now in.
Anyway, all right, we're done with this portion of the broadcast. We're gonna get back to the real news now. Please clarify why you would get banned from Papa Twitch, because Twitch has a very hard policy. Twitch is a platform that actually rigorously applies its terms of service. And because of that reason, I've been banned for silly shit like saying cracker in the past, right? And like when Aiden Ross was banned, for example, if someone were to have him on their stream, they would get banned. If Aiden Ross was in a YouTube video that someone was watching, they wouldn't get banned. In the past, they would have, but Twitch changed that policy. Not a permaban though, more of a suspension. Yeah, but why the fuck would I entertain that, dude? What are you talking about? It's considered ban evasion. Okay? It's considered ban evasion to have a banned streamer on your stream, to talk to a banned streamer. The chatter you pulled up earlier for being a Nazi was nuked off the website permanently about 30 seconds later for your information. So much for this community plus the Twitch platform allowing anti-Semitism. Exactly. Anyway, now let's get back to an actual W. Might be Boner Box though, because he had that dumbass on previously. Yeah, I don't care about that. I don't have an issue with that. But you know, that was a productive conversation from our perspective, and I hope it was productive for some in Ethan's community to actually see that, because I saw posts about people saying like, oh, Ethan and Sam Seder should just join up in arms and attack Hassan. Like, they were so delusional. And the question here, this is a very important jump off point for many of you. Okay? This is a very important jump off point. If you're in here from Ethan's community, why did you have that perspective? What have you consumed so far? And how sheltered were you from the truth that you thought that someone like myself and someone like Sam Seder would not be almost entirely aligned on this issue? You have to remember, you have to think about that. This is a moment of self-reflection, because many people I saw in his community were like, oh, dude, yeah, Sam Seder is going to actually, agree with Ethan completely. And then they're going to move on to like attack Hassan together. Maybe Ethan can use Sam Seder to criticize Hassan. And if you thought that, then you were completely oblivious to his perspective. So why? Why did you think that? I know why you thought that. You thought that because Ethan has been presenting a false narrative. He's been presenting a false narrative about me, as he tried to do against Sam Seder as well. And he has presented a false narrative about Sam Seder as well. It's ridiculous. Self-reflect, please. What's the false narrative? Well, the number one false narrative is one that he already backtracked in the aftermath of this conversation, where he says, oh, maybe Hassan is not an anti-Semite, but he actually allows anti-Semitism or something. And that's like a new meta. He has called me a vile, vicious, rabid anti-Semite over and over again, knowing full well that I do not have an anti-Semitic bone in my fucking body. It's bullshit. And it's ironically enough that I'm being called an anti-Semite by him, while for specifically my advocacy against anti-Semitism. Every time I am decoupling Israel, Zionism, and Judaism, I'm actually working against anti-Semitism. Every time Ethan brings that conversation back to, well, all Jews are Zionists, he is making that dangerous conflation that is creating more anti-Semitism. No, that was the only point he had since the beginning. His last year of harassment has been for nothing. He's using the same initial argument. He literally has said you would call Jews the K word if you could. Yeah, it's fucking insane. It's so insane. And even in the clip that he's bringing up, like, I'm literally saying, regardless of background, looks like someone attended a Hassan 101 seminar. This whole debate is so Hassan coded, and the fact he's getting agitated shows he doesn't like being challenged. Please, I really, really hope, given that Ethan presented this initially as a person that was going to 100% agree with him, I hope that his community, this is like their last shot, I think, of like seeing, like, coming back to reality and not falling into this like complete, this very narrow focused pro-Israel but kind of anti-Israel attitude that Ethan keeps reflecting. Honestly, they're kind of glazing you. They're attributing all of this as if it's your original thoughts, like you invented anti-Zionist talking points. I know. That's what's so crazy. Ethan Klein is going to have a conversation with Avi Shleim or Elon Pape, and they're going to be like, Elon Pape got brainwashed by Hassan. He wrote the book. I'm brainwashed by him. Okay? Like, it's so stupid. Like, there were so many moments in that conversation where I think Sam could have been way more vicious if it wasn't Ethan and someone else, and there simply wasn't enough time, like the bomb shelter shit.
There is not a single dissenting voice with his fucking straight up radical, anti-American, anti-Semitic,
fucking
Bro, I can't believe this man went from dunking on Steven Crowder to saying Steven Crowder ass shit. He's anti-American, radical anti-American.
Now, instead of actually addressing a single point, he stops it before he gets there. He
Lol, Ethan owns Sam, to be honest. I love that. Listen, I'm proud of you. And I think your family is proud of you too, that you are finally able to dress yourself on your own and you were able to actually open up an account all on your own and be able to type those words together. I'm proud of you. No, this is a moment that deserves praise and congratulations. Okay. Clearly, since the car crash, things were not the same for you, but it seems like you're making great improvements. I mean, it's kind of funny that you're, openly demonstrating that, but it's cool. It's cool that you've done it. You are able to type this stuff on your own, all on your own, without anybody else. Where's your pearls at? Okay, well, you kind of failed on the second point, didn't you? You wrote it correctly the first time, and then all of a sudden, communist, champagne, socialist, Lamau. Okay, you got it. You're good. I'm proud of you. Again, you're showing that you can even react in real time. Bro, I like your content, but you're in the wrong on this, and Ethan made some good points. They attacked a fence. Israel is practically groomed into doing a genocide. Yeah, I know. He's blaming you right now for his failure. Ain't no fucking way, dude. Stop. He's still talking about me? What the fuck? Due to their incredible anti-Semitic opinions, and that he is simply misunderstood. He's back to the clip compies. Hold on, I gotta pee. And that he agrees with everything that Sam Seder says wholeheartedly. And Sam, being the kind and gentle being that he is, will not push super hard to really figure out what Ethan's worldview looks like.
He could not have been more wrong.
Yeah, he could not have been more wrong. And by the way, he got to stop making predictions because those don't work out for him.
Yeah, I mean, just objectively, that is the opposite of what played out. So,
but I laugh because he's trying to poison the well ahead of me and Sam agreeing on everything. Although Sam was not very sweet and lovely, he came out ready to go, and that's good. I'm always ready. But I'll tell you guys, I am brave.
Yeah, you've sold us.
I mean, who would go against Sam Seder willingly, Dan?
Not Steven Crowder. That's when
Crowder's been running his whole life.
Obviously not that one.
I'm not running from nothing or nobody.
It ruined Crowder's life.
Carry the load. What?
I said it ruined Crowder's life. Literally, since he did that debate.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I wasn't kidding when I said we ruined his life.
It was funny because at one point Sam took off his glasses and said, "Steven, look into the camera." He's like, "From here on out, it's all downhill for you."
That's crazy that was true.
Yeah,
I mean, we couldn't have predicted that there'd be a scandal where he's abusing his wife on camera. But he went from getting a $50 million deal on the table to being like a nobody.
Yeah. No, that doesn't work either.
Doesn't work either.
Fucking watch it.
What a fucking psycho. Anyway, yeah. So, here's Hassan.
Oh. You've been running away from him. Yeah, I wonder why Ethan Klein won't fucking talk to Sam Seder. Just like he was too scared to talk to Sam Seder in private. I'm not ducking Ethan at all. I'll talk to him. Maybe I'll even have Sam Seder attend.
This just happened like 10 minutes ago.
Right, yeah.
Perhaps this is why my former podcast host is too afraid to talk to Sam Seder. Oh my God, bro. This obsession.
Wait, what is he saying? Is he showing how brave he is? It took a year for him to finally talk to Sam Seder.
There it is. You got what you wanted, and the people are feasting, watching two Jewish men duke it out about
Wait, it took this motherfucker a year, and he got destroyed. What is this? Bro, oh my God.
Hey.
Oh boy, this doesn't look like it went good, but I don't know if Chad can be trusted, no offense.
Hey. A lot of people tuned in for this, huh? 50,000.
He said Sam agreed with everything. Does he not know? Does he not know that Sam Seder is a whole ass adult with a public profile who will see him just simply saying this stuff? Oh, the cope, man. He literally is saying that him and Sam Seder agree with everything. Yeah, the cope here is what? Only going to be entertained? Only going to be entertained for a brief moment? Is that what it is? That video was about how he should talk to you, and he only showed you mentioning Sam. I know. He said you were wrong about Sam being nice to him. I think Sam was very nice to him. What? Okay, I think people need to understand something. That was kitty gloves from Sam. Sam also is not like a contentious person. When he debates libertarians, some of the stupidest people on the fucking planet, he will still maintain that same calm demeanor. There's very few instances where I've seen Sam like get rattled. One was against Tim Pool, and the other was unironically against Ethan at a certain point where he was like, why are you consistently conflating Judaism and Zionism? Meanwhile, his chat is calling Sam a terror supporter. Wait, what? Sam is a terror supporter, but you, Ethan, need to do your homework. So much of what he said was pure lies. Okay, I'm sorry, but this has to be someone from Israel. Like, this sounds like someone. He's a supporter of terror. I felt particularly bothered by Ethan's constant "I agree with you" nonsense because it completely neuters the actual critique Sam was attempting to levy. Like, how do you argue with someone when every valid rebuttal is just met with "I agree" and then completely reverted right afterwards? You can't get anywhere. I know. Ethan Klein is doing something that is incredible in this conversation. And what he's doing, oh, it is shekels. Okay. Well, I didn't realize that was the sign for shekel, but I could just tell from the way that he fucking dressed down Sam Seder, being like, he's a terror supporter. But you, Ethan, need to do your homework. So much of what he said was pure lies. That's why I'm saying most of his audience left. These are the people that came to him for the Zionism at this point. A bit ago, Ethan said him and Sam talked about immaterial topics because they talked about the genocide instead of Hassan. Yeah. They had to agree to disagree on whether or not criticism of Zionism is anti-Semitic. Lol. That is the entire argument for the smear campaign. Yes. So as long as Sam understands is better than anybody else because he is who he is. He's had opinions that has changed throughout time. And for that very purpose, he understands better than anybody else. I've had private conversations with Sam throughout the past year, not about Ethan, by the way, but just in general about what to do in our personal lives where we have friends, people that we are close to, that can find themselves in the throes of radicalization in the aftermath of October 7th, specifically Jewish people. Okay? This is something that I've talked to a lot of my Jewish friends about in general. My anti-Zionist Jewish friends are also going through the exact same issues with people that cannot let go of the social conditioning of Zionism, cannot let go of the idea that Zionism is actually supposed to be for good. It's like this good idea, not a bad one, because it undermines everything. It undermines everything I've known. It undermines everything I've learned my whole life. If I were to re-examine my relationship with Zionism, I have to re-examine everything, which is why Sam was so nice. It's very difficult. It is very difficult. That's why if you listen to anti-Zionist Jews, they talk about this all the time. That's precisely the reason why I had, as one of Twitch's leading Jews, OG Gamer, Professional Racist, America First, Finest Groypers, and the Legion of Kekistan have been telling me to get in an oven for the last 20 years online. But I haven't felt true anti-Semitism on the internet until Hasanabi started flaunting his massive MAGA pecs in my face. Not cool, dog. Slasher. Bro, they're gonna clip this and be like, Slasher, Jewish journalist Slasher, agrees Hassan is anti-Semitic. Oh no. It's no wonder Sam got so passionate. Lillard puts up with the conflation of Jewishness with Zionism every day. Yeah, so here's the issue. They're doing the Hassan flew into private jet to Coachella criticism right now. He's fucking sauceless. Sorry for being this kind of chatter right now. I'm stunned at how stupid Ethan is. Yeah. I don't care about any of that shit. He can fucking keep smearing me all day, every day. Okay, that's whatever. He needs to feed. He basically needs to feed people with something. He feels like a bruised little bird. Okay, he feels like a bruised bird, and he's licking his wounds, and he has to give red meat to his audience and be like, no, guys, Hassan is still bad. Okay, are you gonna talk to him about the drama or stick to Israel Palestine? What do you think? Do you think I'm in the business of trying to talk about drama? Do you think I want to talk to him about drama? Fuck no. It's true that 56% of Israeli support ending the war for the hostages as of last week's Channel 11 poll. Meanwhile, the coalition is practically unstoppable mandate of 68 seats as Bibi consolidates power. How is the conclusion here not the world should pressure Israel externally to end the war? What is Ethan's point? He has no point, time without an OO, as you probably have gotten at this point. His point is, I need to defend... What? Okay, everybody shut up. His point is, I need to defend my position. I'm dug too deep. I've dug in too deep. I don't want to do self-reflection. I don't want to fucking change course. This was his opportunity to try and desperately change the trajectory by being like, see, Sam Seder agrees with me. Look at how look at the way Sam Seder agrees with me, and then try to like, you know, end this arc in his content because he only sees people as like, you know, toys to play with or content to be consumed, and it's mostly just like trying to desperately belittle him, belittle others in the process. Thank you, Sam Seder. Now shut the fuck up, Ethan. You are not the victim. Yeah, there were so many moments in that conversation where he basically brought up, from the POV of someone who doesn't care about Ethan, why are you open to debate him? Because Ethan Klein at this point is, I mean, he had 50,000 people listening to him talk to Sam Seder, and you saw the audience. He is a sizable content creator with a platform, and he's using every waking moment of that platform talking about Israel to basically attack pro-Palestinian voices, advocates. And he's getting a lot of attention from the other slop tubers as well. And the unfortunate reality is a lot of these apolitical slop tubers, okay, that present themselves as apolitical centrists or whatever, they do have a capacity to change people's minds because a lot of dumb people just kind of want to watch a fucking YouTube drama video and get their notes from that. Okay? Ethan is exposing you for flying private with David Dobrik. What are you talking about? This is not an expose. This is something that I have talked about, something that we've memed about a million times over. This is not an expose. This is what I mean. This is the remaining fan base that Ethan has, is like people that only care about this drama shit. But in that process, while they're getting all this drama shit, they're also developing a false narrative. They're also developing a false reality of how things are. There were a couple key moments that instantly like triggered my fucking my Hasbro alarms. Like, I'll have you know, Sam, there's not a single public bomb shelter in Gaza. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? What do you think a bunker buster does to a goddamn bomb shelter? If he ain't ending the stream, no reason you can't hop on a call right now. Oh, I agree. I don't know why he doesn't want to have a call now. I don't know why you spend so much time on Ethan. As I've said already, treat this as if Asmongold is doing this kind of Hasbara. Okay? Treat this as if Ben Shapiro is doing this kind of Hasbara, except Ben Shapiro has no motion right now. Ethan has more motion than Ben Shapiro. That's it. Like, look at how excited he got to deliver this talking point as though Sam hasn't ever heard this before, as though people who are pro-Palestine have not heard this a million times over.
By the way, just there's not one.
Wait, hold on. If he's, dude, at this point, if he's still watching clips of me, why don't you just talk to me in person? What is happening? Like, what is he doing here? Let's see. I'm gonna DM in the chat. I'm gonna say, hey man, since you talked to Sam, I think we could have a more productive convo now, since you seemingly have enough time to watch clips of me. Definitely down to do it Friday, though. Peace and love. That's what I said. I said, hey, man, since you talked to Sam, I think we can have a more productive convo now since you seemingly have enough time to watch clips of me. Definitely down to do it Friday, though. Peace and love.
Are we using the term master bedroom?
Are we using the term master bedroom?
I just say it's my room.
Yeah, I think a master sword. What's next? You want Zelda to change the name of his sword?
Too much passive aggressiveness, I think? No, it's good. He plans to Friday. You're already talking on Friday. Hassan, please get to covering the news. Okay, that's true. I probably should do that. Get off your high horse. Bet you still haven't watched the nuke, hypocrite. Oh, he saw it, I think.
In Marvel Rivals right now. Does that mean?
That's fucked up, love.
Oh.
Wait, you're past Celestial?
No, the season reset, so I'm in a lower rank now.
He got knocked back down.
Oh, that sucks, dude. I'm sorry.
So we're looking like about 26% say no, to 74% say yes.
I love our audience. You know, you guys, you're very reasonable.
Bing bong. Do you think it's okay to call it a master bedroom? I think it's fine.
Some of this, you know, unless you can show me evidence otherwise that it is like comes from racism. I am sleeping in my master bedroom. Damn it.
Fair enough. We'll have to.
All right, never mind. They're gonna avoid it.
I'll take it up with customer support. It's serious.
All right, whatever. You read the whole thing and is ignoring you? Yeah. Not sure it's reached your media, but recent reports of Hebrew military correspondents indicated military is pushing for a ground invasion of the famous Al-Mawazi humanitarian zone
10,000 reservniks will be called in to take over positions in the West Bank, Lebanon, and Syria so the conscripts can take over in Gaza. This is huge and will be a massacre. Yeah. They're pretending it didn't happen. It's all good. Maybe they didn't see it. 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 Be charitable. Be charitable. Be charitable. Anyway, let's take a look at this.
By the way, just there's not
this right here in front of a massive fucking audience. For the record, this right here in front of a massive audience should be treated exactly as a defense of Israel, because that's precisely what it is. Okay, and that is the reason why I treat it as though he is basically like a random person with a massive audience that is, as soon as you click the way he goes back to reacting to your clips, that's crazy. Aren't you letting 100K people watch Ethan spread his delusions instead of addressing the core? What do you mean? I'm doing it right now.
Not one bomb shelter, public bomb shelter in Gaza.
There's not one public bomb shelter in Gaza? Okay.
I just think that's interesting. It's pretty fucked up, don't you think?
Do I think it's fucked up?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I understand the point. Like,
well, I mean,
do you think anything would be standing anymore?
Well, bomb shelters are underground. I mean,
there's a couple reasons as to why there's no public bomb shelters in Gaza. Number one, Israel has no interest in letting any fucking standing structure exist in the Gaza Strip, as they have shown time and time again, because they can just simply say there's Hamas in those mosques, there's Hamas in those hospitals, there's Hamas in those schools, there's Hamas in the UNRWA facilities, there's Hamas inside of the food and grain storage facilities. So having a bomb shelter is basically just putting another fucking crosshair. The notion that being underground will actually preserve you, will save you from being bombed, is also ridiculous, considering that a bunker buster can absolutely eviscerate a goddamn bomb shelter.
And they would definitely be a lot safer.
I've seen what happened to tunnels under hospitals.
Your statement is...
And then he thought, oh, gotcha, tunnels under hospitals. Look.
Oh, there was... So you say there were tunnels under hospitals?
No one denies that there are tunnels under hospitals, Ethan. What the fuck are you talking about? There's tunnels under everything, okay? If you're talking about Al-Shifa, which he probably doesn't know the name of the fucking hospital either, and I think Sam can't even recall the name of the hospital in this situation, then yeah, those hospitals were built by Israel. The tunnels were built by Israel.
Built the ones under the first one that they went into. They built it when they were occupying Gaza.
Are you right? That's true of that one. But I mean, they have a vast tunnel network, obviously, as everybody knows. But I don't care. I don't want to get into the weeds on this.
Oh, he doesn't want to get into the weeds on this. He just backs away. Ay, ay, ay. Oh, that whole conversation was like a sophomore in college trying to own a full professor. It was downright embarrassing for E, but he'll never admit it. Yeah. No, I think like... I think that a lot of people in his fan base will probably say something along the lines of like, no, you did so good, King. Like, you did such a great job. You did such a great job holding your own against Unc. Dude, this is also my favorite response so far. Look, Oliver posts, what are words? Ethan is so fucking dumb, I feel bad for Unc. In what way? Sam couldn't concede that maybe Israelis aren't evil who want all Palestinians to die, Lamau, is a terrible argument, especially considering this is an American making the point. A country full of the most warmonger evil people. I think if the H3 fans don't brigade majority report, that's an admission that he got cooked, I think. No, they will brigade regardless. I was worried Ethan would manage to hide his views since Sam isn't a very online person, but I didn't think it would go this bad for E. Yeah, because he buckled in the first sign of resistance. He literally he couldn't like keep up the act that he is like pro-Palestine, because the reality of the matter is, if every single time Ethan wanted to talk about this issue, he just basically rehashed what he said on October 8th or whatever the first leftover episodes was. If he just kept saying that, no one would think he's a fucking pro-Israel guy. They would just be like, yeah, dude, we've heard this a million times already, but yeah, you're clearly not pro-Israel. We get it. Okay? But that's the problem. He showed that video and then very quickly betrayed that video by telling Sam, displaying to Sam what his actual current opinion is by,
refusing to concede on key points that he would not agree to. He kept saying that he and Sam agreed on everything. Yeah, he's trying to lie. He's trying to lie to his audience to preserve his own sense of dignity. Okay? That's it. He really thought Ethan talking about command center under hospitals, but with Sam, he changed it to tunnels. Yeah. This was Ethan's initial perspective on why Israel must bomb these hospitals.
I mean, listen, I feel like this is a force that's going to help end the war, not fucking keeping hostages and underground and like continuing to provoke Israel to attack them and putting fucking like military complexes under hospitals, its own people for political gain, is lying to themselves, dude. Holy shit. They literally put fucking command centers under hospitals. That's not even debated.
Yeah. So if he thinks that he could just like keep saying, if he thinks that he can keep saying like, oh, Sam and I agreed on everything. Sam and I agreed on everything when he couldn't even keep up the appearance in that very moment where obviously that back and forth was, didn't go down the way he thought it would, which he recognized and admitted to. I don't know why he keeps saying Sam and I agree on everything. So far, Sam Seder's gotten Ethan to agree with everything he said about Israel and reveal it's all about Ethan's personal grievances with Hassan. Unreal. This was in the beginning of the conversation in the first half hour. It fell apart quickly after that, ironically enough. But the reality of the matter is, that he's not able to maintain that position because it's so inconsistent. And ultimately, someone who is more knowledgeable over his positions or what he has said in the past, as opposed to Sam Seder, that at least has the same level of like basic humanity in terms of recognizing the humanity of Palestinians. Yeah, they would make light work of him. All right, should I make a list of things Ethan has said over the past year and ask him, do you still believe the statement? Don't give him any weasel room. When Ethan demanded you bring up in the conversation, then wanted to change the subject once Sam began cooking. Yeah. So here's the situation. He thought he could get like extractions out of Sam that he could use against me. But in the keep going to Disney pedo land, gay boy, your silly Turkish Virgin Mary views are so cute. I'm Lucifer. What the fuck? Bro, take your meds. Oh, hell yeah. Okay, let's get back to the news, newsboy. Newsboy is back to the news, chatters.
The decision in this case might impact those cases?
Well, they're certainly going to be looking at this, right? Now there's a precedent, right? So now some of these lawyers who are also representing other international students that have been targeted by the administration can say, look, this court in Vermont released a student under similar claims made against our students. Interestingly, in this courthouse, there's another major case being played out. Rumeysa Öztürk, she is the Tufts University student who is also targeted apparently for an op-ed that she wrote for a student newspaper a year ago. That case is also being tried in the same courthouse, not by the same judge, but we're going to have to see if it plays out in a similar fashion.
This isn't the end of Madawi's case. So what happens next?
Well, the case is still going to play out, both in immigration court and in federal court. And that's, one thing that's really important. It's kind of unclear sometimes which impacts the other. If a ruling in immigration court impacts what's happening in federal court. So right now, we're kind of in a standstill. We're going to have to wait to see how both courts react and what the next steps are. If there's another hearing in the next few weeks, I'm sure there will be. We're certainly going to be there to report it out.
All right, immigration reporter Armando Garcia. Armando, thank you. President Trump is meeting with his cabinet right now after marking 100 days in office. The president opened that meeting by touting his accomplishments, then blamed the Biden administration for the latest GDP.
Sorry, the groomer is here. Guy is getting groomed. Friday going to be the Super Bowl for the unemployed? True.
Report showing the U.S. economy shrank in the first quarter.
Probably saw some number.
They're replacing Connolly with someone even older? Oh my God, shut up. 87-year-old Holmes Norton eyes bid to lead no, this is a joke, I think. That's got to be a joke. There's no way. That's got to be someone joking. Someone jokingly dropped that as a meme in Axios. Like a Democrat staffer is making a joke, I think. There's no fucking way, dude.
Dude, that is so, oh my God. That is so insane. What the fuck? It's who Connolly named as his successor? Are they just like, do they hear our criticisms and they laugh at us behind closed doors? What's happening? They're like, oh, they thought we couldn't go older. No. Is the Democrat stationed in the Vatican? No, this is incredible stuff. This is fantastic. You don't get it? We need someone who still remembers the Nazis personally. He's the man for this very short moment. This is incredible. 2 L's on Connolly, right? I'm not going to listen to the funny Steven Crowder song, okay? Stop sending it to me. We're in the news now. We're in the news portion.
Numbers today, and I have to start off by saying that's Biden. That's not Trump, because we came in on January, this is the quarterly numbers, and we came in and I was very against everything that Biden was doing in terms of the economy, destroying our country in so many ways, not only at the border was more obvious, but we took over his mess in so many different ways.
And I want to bring in our senior White House correspondent, Selena Wang, because Selena, the president also said if you take out some of these numbers, GDP is actually up, and he touted investments in the U.S. What do you make of his explanation for this GDP report compared to what economists are saying?
Well, look, the president is blaming the GDP report as well as the stock market on former President Biden. But most economists agree that the drop in consumer confidence, the volatility in the stock market, and this economic slowdown that we're seeing is a result of the president's chaotic tariff policy that has been on again, then off again, then on again. Now, these are sweeping tariffs that the president has imposed, and it's led many companies to rush to get ahead of these tariffs, surging imports of goods from abroad. And a lot of companies have been on edge as well. Many businesses have been put on pause, and these China tariffs are especially damaging for companies that rely on trade between these two countries. Many small businesses, large businesses, as well as U.S. farmers. We've currently got 145% on many tariffs coming in, many goods coming in from China, and then China has imposed 125% tariffs on goods going from the U.S. into China, which is primarily agricultural goods. Now, our Terry Moran pressed the president on this issue yesterday, saying that for some of these American businesses, they're facing the possibility of extinction. The president brushing those concerns off, saying that everything is going to be fine. This administration continues, Diane, to maintain the position that any of this short-term pain is worth the long-term gain of revitalizing American manufacturing. The president also posting on Truth Social today, telling Americans to be patient.
Selena, the president talked a lot about China, as you say. One of the things he really wanted to emphasize here was the elimination of the de minimis tariff exemption, and that's on sort of smaller imports. They're saying that this is helping small businesses. What did you make of that exchange with the Commerce Secretary?
So in specific,
can I just show you the stupidity of conservatives really quickly for a brief moment? I just want you to see something very stupid. Okay, I know we've moved on and it's not drama related or whatever, but like, I need you to see something very funny that I just saw in my replies. Okay. So I posted when Ethan was falsely claiming that Nelson Mandela never engaged in violence. I posted this. I said, falsely claiming that Nelson Mandela never engaged in violence to end the apartheid is ahistorical nonsense. He was offered a commutation of a sentence if he disavowed violent resistance twice. He refused, extending his prison sentence twice. Here is also in 1999, Nelson Mandela, the late and great Nelson Mandela, visiting Gaza and saying, choose peace rather than confrontation, except in cases where we cannot move forward. Then, if the only alternative is violence, we will use violence.
Than confrontation, except in cases where we cannot proceed, where we cannot move forward. Then, if the only alternative is violence.
This guy said, you keep being obsessed with Jews, huh? Yeah, dude. That's what it is. You got me. That's why I'm obsessed with Israel, and not because it's doing a genocide right now with my tax dollars.
We will use violence.
His comments won him applause from leader Yasser Arafat and...
Anyway, this guy, this is my favorite thing that conservatives do, where they go to Grok. You can't stop being obsessed with Israel, huh? Yeah, how dare Jews fight against Islamists instead of letting them destroy them? Yeah, we got it, dude. Your racism is in full display. The notion that... like Islamists would destroy Israel. So anyway, the point I was making is, or what I wanted to show you is, conservatives love relying on Grok because they can't think for themselves. And I feel like it's very stupid to just like openly admit defeat, that a machine that has the capacity to fucking lie, by the way, will with regular frequency going going to a machine to be like, is this person wrong? To prove a point. There has to be an account at this point of like Grok conservative self-owns, because I see this so frequently. I see it so goddamn frequently where people would just be like, Grok, is he lying? And then Grok will be like, no, he's not lying. And it's such a fucking hilarious thing. He's like, Grok, what logical fallacies are in this post? Why don't you try to fucking make it up? Why? The post by Hassan the Hunt contains no logical fallacies. It refused to claim that Nelson Mandela never engaged in violence with evidence, citing his refusal to disavow violent resistance and a quote supporting the violence when necessary. This avoids fallacies like strawman, ad hominem, or false dilemma, as it directly addresses the claim with historical facts. Mandela's role in the founding of Umkhonto we Sizwe, I'm going to butcher that, MK, and his stance during imprisonment to support the argument. This post is focused and evidence-based, maintaining logical coherence. Ironically, Grok is smarter than most of those people. Yeah, of course they are, dude. Of course. These people are so dumb that they're relying on a chatbot. That's my point. I'm saying you are the lowest of the low at that point. Like you're literally saying a goddamn machine that has the capacity to be wrong, by the way, and still tell you with 100% certainty the wrong information is smarter than you. Think for yourself. Why do you need a machine to think for you? Wait, he doubled down, refresh. Shut up. He responded to Grok by being like, fuck you, you're wrong. Don't worry, there's other low-hanging fruit. There are so many people like this now. It's so sad. What? You're right. There are bigger issues to tackle here. Mandela's support for arms resistance against apartheid is well documented. He co-founded MK and refused to renounce violence for his freedom. The low-hanging fruit might be the debated comparison between South African apartheid and Israeli-Palestinian conflict, or myths about Mandela being purely nonviolent. His 1999 Gaza visit, backing peace, but justifying violence when necessary, fuels these discussions. Let's focus on those broader points. Even when he's like trying to double down, the Grok is like, no, actually, focus on the broader points here. The comparison is apt.
That de minimis exemption closing that trade loophole that allows goods valued at less than $800 to come into the U.S. tariff-free, that really hurts some Chinese companies like the e-commerce retailers Shein and Temu. Both of those companies have said that they're going to have to raise prices. In fact, they've already started raising prices because of that. Now, some would argue that this actually does benefit some American firms. Fast fashion retailer Forever 21, when they were closing stores, said that part of the reason was that they couldn't compete with these fast fashion, cheap e-commerce retailers from China that were benefiting from this loophole. But the president there, in the cabinet room, he also talked about how China is getting hammered by his tariffs. This does come as China's factory activity slipped to the worst contraction since December 2023, as China is grappling with these very steep tariffs from the United States. But the president, he also reiterated that we're talking to China. Now, Beijing has repeatedly said that they are not talking to the United States when it comes to trade. So it's still unclear at this point if negotiations between these two countries are even happening.
All right, Selena Wang, thank you. And a new report says the U.S. economy shrank for the first time since the pandemic. The GDP decreased at an annual rate of 0.3% since the beginning of January. That's the first drop in 3 years. Let's bring in chief economist at Numerator, Leo Feller, for more. Leo, thanks for coming back on. Always great to have you unpack these things with us. So as you heard me saying with Selena, President Trump says this GDP report is a result of the Biden administration. What's your take on his comments, his explanation, and what he's saying that if you remove some of these numbers, we're actually up?
Well, let's look at the data. So the data itself is telling us that in 2024, every single quarter of 2024, the economy was actually growing. And every single quarter of 2023, the economy was actually growing. It's really this first quarter of 2025 that the economy has shrank. And granted, this is a negative 0.3. This is basically flat. And it suggests that consumers, that businesses are basically just waiting to see what's going to happen next. This really looks like it's something that has been happening much more recently in the past couple of months, as consumers have been stating that they're increasingly nervous, they're increasingly pessimistic about job prospects, about income growth. And businesses themselves have announced that they are uncertain about how much they will be able to sell in the future, given how much policy change has occurred just in the past 2 months.
So, big picture, why is GDP dropping, and what can we do about it?
Yeah, listen, the big thing is that consumers have slowed how much they're spending, right? So spending is still up, but they're slowing it down. Businesses have imported quite a bit, right? And that's to try to front run these tariff increases. So if you think about, right, tariffs coming into place or already in place for products from China, businesses have tried to get ahead of this by bringing a lot of those imports in and boosting their inventories. Right now, I mean, businesses are basically saying, they tried to do this front loading, but we're even seeing in other data shipments from China drop substantially, which suggests that businesses have already done a lot of this front loading and they're stopping to bring in new goods given the high tariff rates that are in place right now.
So oh, sorry, Leo, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying there's not much that we can do about it now, given the policies that are in place. I think given the data that we're seeing, we'll probably just have some empty shelves coming into June and July as businesses have not been able to bring in new goods.
Does this offer any more fuel to recession fears?
I think we are at a tipping point where we can go into a recession, but we are really at that margin where it's possible to still step back and continue to have economic growth. If we continue down this trajectory of tariff wars, of threatening Federal Reserve independence and creating economic uncertainty, then I do think that we tip into a recession at the later half of this year.
All right, Leo Feller, always great to have you, Leo. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
President Trump marked the 100th day of his second term with a campaign-style rally in Michigan last night. He used most of the speech to attack his opponents and then boast about his actions in office so far, even as the polls show that he is losing a lot of support. He also had a very public dispute yesterday with one of the tech titans who stood behind him at his inauguration. Ed O'Keefe covered the rally for us. He's in Detroit with the latest. Ed, good morning to you.
Gail, good morning. The president back out on the campaign trail sounding familiar themes, suggesting that his term so far has been a success, despite the fact that his approval ratings on the slide and some tough economic reality.
Hello, Michigan.
100 days in, President Trump back in campaign mode, rallying his supporters in a battleground state.
In 100 days, we have delivered the most profound change in Washington in nearly 100 years.
Recent CBS News polling shows immigration remains among the issues the president scores best on, so it's no surprise he talked it up.
You finally have a president who is defending our borders and our nation.
But in a striking moment, the American president used propaganda video shot by the El Salvadoran government to show how he's deported undocumented immigrants to that Central American nation.
How is going from a projected 4% growth to an actual -4? No, 0.5% growth, not 0.4% growth. Considered flat. It's because the diminished, like the shrinkage in the GDP is minor, and they're trying to navigate around that conversation to the best of their ability because that's what mainstream media does. They try to fucking normalize everything that you're experiencing so you don't like collapse and freak out and go, oh my God, we're in a recession. What the fuck is going on? Yes. Donald Trump is so bad at his job, though, that it's becoming increasingly more difficult every waking moment to manage. It's really, really hard to do propaganda that like even tries to maintain a sense of normalcy around Donald Trump and his actions. If you remove the numbers, the economy is up. The brandization of Trump continues. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's less shipments coming in. I see it every day since I work in logistics. It's bad. I do feel like one day I won't be asked to come into work. Yeah, that's what's coming.
President's milestone day came as consumer confidence plunged again in April.
Damn, this guy's good.